This is Disclosure Now, a show where we expose the truths that are nefariously hidden from humanity. Today we examine the phenomenon of targeted individuals. TIs are people who claim to be targeted through electronic surveillance and clandestine warfare. While this phenomenon is often ridiculed by the mainstream, we examine the evidence that targeting is occurring and the reasons why.
All right, welcome to a special off day episode of Disclosure Now. I want to apologize for not showing up for Virtual Temple Complex on Wednesday. I had an alter experience. It was less than savory experience, but I'm back. Without further ado, we got a dude. Without further ado, because Nathan is a dude. We got Nathan here who, you know, we've talked about it a lot on Virtual Temple Complex, the targeting, what it's like. It's a lot of the stuff that Nathan goes through, and it sucks. It's not a fun time. And it turns out this is a global phenomenon. Nathan isn't alone and being targeted. And it's a lot of people are really like the people that get targeted. They're like, I'm just a normal person. They have like with you sort of have a rhyme or reason, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like you're in
they've got it out for me.
Yeah. But for some people, they're targeted, and they're like, I'm just like a guy that works at Target. Like, why are there people following me? And all this crazy shit. And we're gonna get into like why that might be, what's going on. Like, one thing I want to show here, that's from 12 years ago. It's a news reel, and it's pretty crazy. Like, it's pretty unbelievable, actually. So I'm gonna put it on and just it kind of blows my mind that this actually aired on TV. So check it out, everybody. Here we go.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads. And those voices are being transmitted by microwave or other methods.
Well, several viewers asked us to investigate what they call electronic harassment. KMIR 6's Angela Monroe joins us now with what she's discovered. Angela.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms, but after searching the internet, I found dozens of websites dedicated to the phenomenon and several Valley residents who say they're victims.
How much more can you invade me than to go into my brain?
It sounds like somebody else is reading the book, only it's thoughts.
We're not having a group hallucination. This is actually something that's happening.
These men all live in the area, didn't know each other before the voices started, and say someone is playing mind games with them.
Mostly it's a lot of derogatory comments about whatever you're thinking about.
Only time I ever had a whole sentence, he said, "This is not about you," which just frosted me. If it's not about me, what the hell am I going through all this for?
Kevin Bond says he used to have a normal life.
I was living in the San Diego area, was clerking for a federal judge, and I noticed that I was being followed by a whole bunch of people.
According to the websites, what Bond is describing is called Gangstalking. He moved to Palm Springs to escape.
I started hearing, as you'll hear, hearing voices and what they'll call voice to skull or microwave hearing.
Bob Stansfield says his experience was similar and started a decade ago.
They were active in following me around here, and I started hearing the voices a little bit after the vehicular stalking.
Randall Ringer says the voices started when he was undergoing chemotherapy.
The first thing that was said was Randall Ringer. And I sat up straight and I went to into the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, looked myself in the eyes, and I said, did that really happen?
Bond says he's found more than 300 victims locally and is tracking others across the state through billboards. In Johnson Valley, a Freedom House just opened to help people who believe they are being targeted.
To many of you who find yourselves the object of covert harassment, that there is hope and that you are not alone, and that we are striving to find legislation and we're working towards freedom for all.
Derek Robinson leads a national group called Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance. He says he knows who's playing mind games.
Rogue government officials that are sponsoring this, also corrupt business officials, and private citizens.
And he also told us how.
Most of it is delivered by microwave, and I believe it's satellite delivered. Whether someone is on a remote location using a laptop or next door using the desktop.
Bond says neurotransmitter chips that run off body electricity have been inserted into some people.
And they assign cell phone numbers to them. The cell phone numbers are then run through a computer, and a computer translates your thoughts. This crime has been available to the military for 60 years.
We sat down with local psychiatrist Dr. Alan Drucker to get his professional opinion.
There's no scientific evidence and there's no objective evidence to show that what they believe to be happening is factually
bullshit.
True.
So what does the doctor believe is behind these voices?
Information that I found on many of these websites really confirms or is consistent with what I see in delusional disorders.
But these men disagree.
I've been to a psychiatrist and they gave me anti-schizophrenia medication and it did absolutely nothing whatsoever.
However, Dr. Drucker says delusional disorder has no real medical treatment and is believed to start because of disrupted dopamine pathways in the brain.
These pathways then start to fire or get triggered in the absence of actual stimulation of a person actually speaking or the radio being on, etc.
Dr. Drucker says dopamine can be disrupted for a variety of reasons: a genetic predisposition, illicit drugs, and even chemotherapy. These men have their own theories why they're being harassed.
I think that I was targeted because I'm gay.
I reported someone for selling what I thought they were selling drugs, and they were.
Nationwide, this crime is committed about 60% against white women ages from 30 to 38. But in Palm Springs, it's almost 98% gay men.
It does tend to occur more in populations of individuals who are marginalized or in some way stigmatized in society.
But these men disagree and say police and the psychiatric community need.
And why they do that? It's like the same reason why predators like pedophiles, why they always target kids from like poor backgrounds and stuff like that. It's because they think no one will believe them, no one will care. So they always target marginalized people. Like predators always do that, and even the guy who's trying to refute it is saying that the people that are reporting this are coming from marginalized group. But why is that?
Yeah, let's stop for a second before you hit the video. Go ahead.
Okay.
First off, we got a place to live, man. Freedom House. What do you say? Things get bad for us. You know where to go, right?
That was 12 years ago. It makes me wonder. This is literally 12 years old, you guys. This video.
They might have an addition built on by then. By now, I mean.
And look at it. It's being aired at 11:11. That's kind of weird.
Well,
did they do that on purpose? It's kind of strange. I never noticed that before.
But
it's almost over. I don't want. You can go on and say some more stuff, but
it's interesting to see. You got all these regular people trying to figure out what it is, and that's one of the things that you go through. But for me, it wasn't like that. I mean, all the targeting crap. It was like after I was targeted, and after all this other weird paranormal stuff happened, then I realized that was a TI. So it's interesting to see regular people fathom as to how they got in this situation, and the answer is research and development. They're targeting marginalized groups.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to see what happens. They're the easiest ones to get to, because if you're training people, you're going to go after the most marginalized, most persecuted
let's talk about this.
Self-esteem to really get to learn what you're doing. I mean, these people are sick.
Well, let's think about this. Okay, like in warfare, like they have war games where you got two different battalions that are playing fake war games against each other. So that way, when you go into the real combat situation, you're prepared. It's not like you're just being a fish being taken out of water. You know, you've been there in that environment before. You know what to expect. You know what to look for. You know how to defend yourself. And with psychological warfare, electronic warfare, how is it any different? They have to test it. They have to make sure the technology works. They have to make sure it's efficient. They have to make sure that it works on everybody. They have to make sure, know where it works, when it works, how it works, what environments maybe it doesn't work in, all that stuff. So that way, when they actually try to use it in a large scale way, which I mean they already are, but just so they can use it for warfare, because they have to test it somehow.
this is what you call silent weapons for quiet wars, but the reality is they're going to use this for the social credit score that's coming. So this is to keep you in line. So they need to do the research and development for that. That's the big plan, to plug you into AI and then punish you for thought crimes before you even do it. So you stay in line. Pretty much what you've probably experienced to some degree or another yourself.
Yeah, that was like a self-activating program. I guess I'll explain it to people.
Well, I'm talking about other stuff. Yeah, but go ahead with that. I'm referring to the memories that you have through your alters, because they're living in some of these dystopic realities, and this is one that they're building here. So
yeah,
probably more of an anti-state, I would suspect.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen where it can get really bad as far as like drones flying around everywhere with cameras on them, policing everyone, and I've seen that stuff. I have a very strong aversion to like all drones because of what I've seen in other realities. It doesn't mean that I get like PTSD flashbacks when I see a guy flying a drone in the park or whatever, but I just tend to just not like them and have an aversion towards them. But you know, they're super cool. They can be used as a cool tool, like for footage, like filming stuff. They can be really cool. It's just that technology. It's used in war for really, really fucked up stuff. There's no other way.
It makes killing easier. It makes war easier. And
it's kind of like this idea. You know, we talk about a lot. We've talked about how like the internet, it makes people like not like a lot of arguments that people have online. If they were in person, they probably wouldn't have the same kind of conversation, same kind of argument. Probably be able to come to an agreement easier. It's sort of the same thing with making. And then they're bringing out to warfare and making it easier to like not look at a person as a person and make it feel more like a video game. You know what I mean? Take even like all the humanity out of it that you possibly can.
Yeah, that's what social media has done for those trolls out there. One day you'll meet us in person, and hopefully you're nicer.
Well, I'm just going to add this to the States just for another second. And
seriously.
When I worked with the government, I heard a lot of people coming in saying, I'm hearing voices through my tooth. Now I look back and I think, are they like I am now and I just didn't pay attention?
For them, the voices are a waking nightmare. And Kevin Bond told me they're working on a book project about electronic harassment and pitching the idea to DreamWorks. Back to you.
Yeah, like we're going to get that.
Yeah, I don't think the DreamWorks movie ever came.
And did you notice how they act when they start to address the story? They got that smirk on their face, like, yeah, this is some far out stuff, it's BS, and this is conspiracy theory. So enjoy everybody with green men from the moon involved.
Well, when they asked the guy, hey, why do you think you're being targeted? He's like, I think it's because I'm gay. It doesn't help the case, does it? But well, the reality is these people, a lot of times are like, literally are like, why the heck am I being targeted? This makes really
well, he's grandfathered in with the targeting. You automatically, when you're born gay, it's like you get a front seat to the targeting of your own. You know, it's a whole different thing. It's not the government. But well, technically it is. If they're putting it on the media, if they turn everybody against gay people by weaponizing a civil rights movement or human rights movement, then they can turn everybody against you after the backlash. It's a whole different subject. But
so I want to also bring up, so Nathan, I've talked about how in the underground bases, like the one that's underneath Appleton and stuff like that, where they house my labs, and by that I mean like we live there. We're living normal lives. We're mind wiped, and they can kind of pick us up and use us whenever we want. And so even sell us to ET or different military organizations and stuff like that to be used, rent us out to them. Well, I've talked about how like they have tags, and I've talked about how crazy it is, like how they're monitoring us, how they're like literally looking at us through our phones, how it gets crazy, and like people are like, well, yeah, I know my phones are monitoring me, but it doesn't get that crazy, does it? And it's like, I just want to play this little clip of it's literally only a minute long. It's Edward Snowden talking about the technology that exists that he saw because he was working for the NSA. So, and this goes along with exactly basically what I'm saying.
Snowden says he was astonished back then at the access he had at his fingertips, most notably including a computer program that, as he put it, could get inside your thought process.
When I think about an instance that really just struck me as, oh my God, we can do this, and that we can do it to anyone, was that people at NSA, analysts, can actually watch people's internet communications, watch them draft correspondence, and actually watch their thoughts form as they type. as you write a message, you know, an analyst at the NSA or any other service out there that's using this kind of attack against people can actually see you write sentences and then backspace over your mistakes and then change the words and then kind of pause and think about what you wanted to say and then change it. And it's this extraordinary intrusion, not just into your communications, your finished messages, but your actual drafting process, into the way you think.
So that just shows, like, it gets so, like, really detailed with the monitoring. It's not. It's
What do you
not,
think he was referring to, Arcane?
She's talking about when you type. So, like, basically saying, like let's say you're on Facebook and you're making like a
Right.
post, and you type "rough day at work," blah 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 blah. You make this little post, and you say, I don't want to share that. Oh, let me edit it and make it more positive.
Oh,
And you
yeah,
edit
before
it.
you publish it.
They see all that.
Yeah.
They're watching that. Like
That's, I knew that.
Mhm,
I was,
but
for
like
a moment, I thought he was talking about remote neural monitoring. That's what I was trying to, like.
Well,
I
he was getting at, like, hinting at they can kind of predict your thoughts, predict what you're going to think, what you're going to do.
Using
And what I'm kind of getting at here with this is, like, I'm going to take it a step further, is with what the information they're feeding you, with the fact that your phone can control your nervous system through technology they have, like remote frequency technology, like, you know, all these different things. Basically, what I'm getting at is the smartphone is blatantly being used as a mind control tool, as a way to mind control people and monitor them. And like I've said before, they in these underground bases where they have whole teams monitoring everything, kind of controlling everything on the surface. They literally call them their tags. They call them our tags. Like, they're your cell phone's GPS signal and the camera on it and the microphone on it is their tag. And yes, these guys can tap into your camera at any time, look at you at any time. It's fucking nuts. And, like, you know, I know that people think, oh wow, they probably can do that. Oh, la di da da da, go on with it today.
Oh, it's much worse than that. They can see through our eyes, and that's with totally different tech. I've been harassed by V2K handlers, and when it really, really got started and became threatening, I had a gas pain and went through my left side, and he literally felt it and immediately told me that I just had that experience and referred to something as like, we've got you completely neurally hooked up. I don't remember what the term, I wish I did remember the term that he used, but it was more of a technical term. But he made sure that he made me know that everything that I was going through, they could sense their self. And I knew that before because I thought I was talking to ETs when I would cook food and they would taste it through my mouth and give me tips on, you know, how to cook or whatever. It was supposed to build my trust so that I could just be a victim. But that's a whole nother story. But these handlers try to get you to be connected to them and dependent, and they abuse you like a narcissistic spouse would in that situation. So there's a lot going on there anyway.
What do you think the motivations behind all this is, and why what do you think is really going on?
It's control. It's control the population, research and development. They go after the marginal groups. They learn to map out the human brain. This isn't something. So what we have to understand is that the military tech that these other agencies aren't necessarily privy to, they've got to develop it. They also have to develop it or have a separate program. But the main thing that you need to understand is they have to have a traceable paper trail. So when they develop this for the general public, it has to have an origin. So they have to see they see the technology, and then they watch it grow and they nurture it, and then they gradually roll it out to you. So right now it's being desensitized in the form of the Havana syndrome. That's all they'll talk about. But eventually they'll start getting in there. They're easing you in. Just think of the frog sitting in a pot of water. And it's just getting hotter and hotter and hotter until the frog dies in the water. And we're probably, we're 110, 120 degrees Fahrenheit right now.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, everyone's feeling it. It's like things are heating up and it's getting wild, and everyone sort of feels the burn. No pun intended, because you're like, literally there's fires and stuff right now, but people are really feeling it has reached the boiling point where it's the frog wants to hop out of the pot almost is coming to that point. But yeah, I want to just bring up before I forget about it from a time traveler perspective with you, Nate. And I don't know if you've ever heard this before, and hopefully it gives you a little bit of a kind of like encouragement, because I really do think that there's probably some truth to my theory on why they target you specifically. Obviously, people are using like time travel programs. Like I know you're a part of Project Ibis and stuff like that. We have this what they call wait to the timeline. What the fuck was that? I just saw someone's face flash.
Oh, yeah, I've been seeing shit too. Where was it?
That was fucking weird, dude.
Where did you see it?
It almost looked like it was on the computer screen. It was really weird, man.
That was
fucked up. That
I've
was
seen
really. I've never had anything like that happen to me before.
Was it a face coming? Was it like a split second?
Evil-looking, mean face, dude. That was fucking wild, man. Whew, I'm shook up over that. It almost looked like Aphex Twin. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't seen it.
He's like a. I'll show him to you real quick. It didn't look like him, but almost. I'll show you him. Yeah, this is the face that almost totally different, but hold on. I'll share the screen. That was fucking so wild, dude. Like
just think of it as wild.
Like I just had like a fucking crazy evil face just get projected into my brain. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. Like
no, I believe you. I've seen a headless demonic chicken recently, and I'm not joking. It was a black.
Yeah, so this is an Aphex Twin.
Okay, yeah.
He's but anyway,
almost looks like the Joker and Dracula
That's
mixed
weird.
together.
What was I just talking about? Oh yeah. So what I think they're trying to get me off track and not tell you this. We wait to the timeline. We can change the timeline. Like certain things that we do can affect the timeline more than other people. Not to give you not to sound egotistical, but it's just true. I know that's true. These are a lot of the people that they try to take for time travel projects. Is if they figure out somebody changes the timeline a lot, well, then they want that person. If they're like, oh wow, this person made all these alterations. Well, hey, that means they have the weight to them. It's like this thing that people literally carry. And I think you might carry that. And I think what they know is that if you weren't in chronic pain and being targeted and having all this crazy shit happen to you, you'd probably contribute to the world in some way and do a lot more and do good for the world, basically. And I don't think they want that. I don't think that they want you at your 100% where you can do all of the good that you came here to do. They need to try to cripple you as much as they can in order for you to not have a positive impact on the world. And it's fucked up, but I literally think that's what it is, Nathan.
That is what it is, and it's
and a lot of targeted individuals. You're probably not the only one, because a lot of these people are like, "What the hell? Why me?" And they haven't even gotten to the point where they're going to do the crazy thing that they would end up doing that would make them change the world. Like
I met somebody else like
this time travel thing.
I met somebody like this yesterday. I was on the Cosmic Switchboard. And it started out, there was 3 other My Labs, and one of them got knocked off the stream. We had a lot of tech issues. But there was a guy that, I won't say his name because I don't know if he's using his name publicly, his first name. I know he's not using his last name, but we were referring to him as Heaven because he was going by the War in Heaven, which was his handle for the show. And
dude, there's all sorts of weird shit going
I totally sensed that.
There's like this thing. It's
but
not
hold on a second, you gotta...
reality. There's a thing. There's a
what
thing.
Happened? What?
There's like a fucking
flying shit right now?
Camera thing, but it's not in our reality. Like it's slightly out of phase.
You're seeing it right now?
Yeah, it's just right there. Like, dude, weird shit's going on. I've never had this kind of stuff happen to me.
Hold on. All right. I told you earlier today on the phone that I saw that thing that I described, and people will think I probably made a joke that I saw a headless black demonic chicken looking thing, but it was a black chicken with no head. It flew up from the floor to the ceiling at a rapid rate, like with anti-gravity.
I'm going to draw what I just saw, okay?
What they're doing, this is intimidation and distraction. So that seems like...
So what this is like, it's a face. It had like a little red camera on it, and it was like on the end of a stick, and then at the end of the stick, it was like a box, and then the box had like wings on it, and it was flying.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally like a robot thing. And it was just right there. Like I could fucking see it. I haven't had stuff like this. This kind of shit used to happen to me when I was a little kid all the time. When they're taking me a lot and stuff like that. Like when I was in the Talented Gifted program and stuff like that. Like around that time of my life, like I would see shit all the time. Like that was slightly phased out of reality. That was watching me and stuff.
Right.
It's been a long time since I've ever had anything like that happen. I'm like, there must have been a reason. Like it's like for real, like you said, and it's just becoming more and more obvious. Like I already believed you, but there's a reason why that author came forward and tried to stop us from having that roundtable discussion and continue. You know what I mean? The other day, we're probably going to talk about some stuff or something that they didn't want us to talk about.
They don't want to. It's not even what we were to talk about yesterday. It's anything that we talk about in the future. They don't want us coming together. I already know all this stuff. There's a long struggle ahead, and they want to stop it. They want to stop us what we're doing. It's quite obvious. I mean, from the start, it was a lot of opposition, and it hasn't let up. And now it's gotten worse because they're doing new tactics, like making these images show up in front of us where we see things. I mean, I literally saw something that was like a black mass. It looked like wings of a chicken without a head, and it flew in a very unnatural way. And then I had later that day or that night, I was here in the basement, and I felt the feeling that you get just before an abduction. And I'm like, okay, I'm like in a defensive position, you know, I'm like, okay, assholes, you know, you're not going to do this to me anymore. So they left, whatever it was, but it was an intimidation fact. It was to intimidate. It's what it is. They're running out of options. So they're going to do more aggressive shit. You know, the softball handling stuff that, I mean, I wouldn't even call it that. I've been through a lot, but they're going to ramp this up. That's why I said we got to get organized. We got to have people that we can reach out to who are on call and ready to help. It's going to get worse. And I don't want to go into this full speed ahead and get hit like a deer in the headlights. So it's getting worse.
Yeah.
So where were we with that discussion before
I'm
we
just
had
shook up. I'm honestly really shook up, man. That face that I saw, he kind of looked like Benedict Cumberbatch Humbledink or whatever the fuck that guy's name. He kind of looked like that.
Engelbert Humperdinck or who's?
He's like
was that a wrestling manager or something?
He still doesn't look. He looked a lot like this guy, but it wasn't him. I don't think. But I guess I'll share the screen. I'm just freaking out over that. That was really wild. Like I probably should not let it distract me too much, but just for
Look at it as entertainment. That's all I can say.
It is entertaining, right? Like I guess for the audience, they're probably like, "Holy shit, what's going on?"
Well, they probably think we're making it up.
He kind of looked like this guy. No, we have a good audience. We don't. I literally, when anyone even just kind of seems like a troll, I kick them out of the chat now. I'm just
with all due respect for all of you who know what's going on, we thank you for your loyalty to us, but there are some a-holes out there that would use this.
Definitely. I mean, there's probably still people who watch, but they know better than to try to pop in the chat and troll because they just kick them out right away. YouTube's good about that. You can just ban someone from your chat, and I'm pretty liberal with it. I use it a lot, honestly. Like if someone's cool, they're not going to get banned from my chat. So if you're cool, you have nothing to worry about. Like, but yeah, as soon as someone's trying to be a dick, like it's like why are you watching a show you don't like? Just leave. Like, you know, you can do that.
You want to shift gears real quick and address this altar thing real quick and then roll on to the next clip, or do you just want to leave that out?
Yeah. No, the altar that came out that tried to stop us from talking, he was some sort of computer program. So what it was, you guys, is when Kat got off work, she had to go get the car because the car was in the shop. And I was lying in bed, and this altar just came on. I was just like saying weird words, weird phrases, numbers and stuff. And she didn't know what to do. And she had to leave. And I told her, probably don't do this next time. But she just kind of left me because she, you know, sometimes if I'm like that, that's what's the best thing to do is to leave me there, honestly. I don't blame her for it. But I told her in the future, like, please try to talk to me and like shake me or something. Like, seriously, because that was scary. Basically, I was just lying there saying all these words, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from you, and I tried to pick up the phone, and I kept on saying squirm, squirm, squirm.
Yeah, you were saying that, and you were saying toxic, and you said Edward too. You're just random stuff.
Yeah. It was like it felt like this was a computer program that was going through my brain, and my brain was like a lock it was picking. It was trying to find something. That's what it felt like.
And I want people to know, we saw this. We saw what was going on. So I saw it personally, and you had pain on your face. It was disheartening, and it was very, very, very difficult to deal with because there's nothing that we could do about it. Being all the way over here and nowhere near you. And even if we were near you, the best thing that we could do was try to get in the apartment and observe and try to make sure you're okay. But, even that's difficult. So people need to realize
whatever it was, because I say it because it was very robotic, this altar. I think it was an altar, but
it sounded like a computer AI or something. I mean, it didn't have any kind of feel to it, but whatever it was, it incapacitated you, which was the idea, and probably to intimidate and dishearten and everything else. But I mean, this is the kind of shit that happens, and like what we talked about on the phone. Because this isn't an issue with like putting shields up or doing any type of psychic warfare, offensive warfare. It has to do with allowing alters to access you because you want to connect and learn, like you were saying. But it's a double-edged sword because you don't know what is on the, it's you on the other end, but that isn't you thinking clearly. It's not, they've got control, potentially they've got total control or some or whatever. But there's a risk involved in this. So people need to understand that when you do connect with these alters, it's just, I can't say it's just as risky. I don't know the percentages here, but I mean, I would say it could be equally as risky as trying to go to handlers and get information. Sometimes you can't use handlers for information, but you can use alters, but there's a degree of risk involved because they could be working for the other side and just simply there to take you over. And with you, it could be a situation where if they just flood you with terrible memories and just shut you down, make you depressed and do everything that they're doing to you, it could be a form of abuse and attack, even though you are getting information. So it's a double-edged sword. The problem is you want the information that creates a dependency on the program handler, which then pumps it into you through the altar, but it becomes a cycle of abuse and dependence. So it's a fine line to walk. I'm thankful I don't have that situation, but this is one of the real serious obstacles that you have. And so it isn't going to be easy dealing with this. You're walking on hollowed ground, I guess you could say, in a way, because you just don't know what, it's a risky endeavor. So there's a price to pay for these memories that people don't recognize. Some people don't, some do.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I don't know. By the way, I probably should have put this up. I also want to bring up, people, if you are able to support the show financially, there is a reason why I put the PayPal here. I know people like to give the super chats. They're cool. It's a nice feature of YouTube, but please understand they take 30% of that. So that's why their thing is on the bottom and says the PayPal. It's because honestly, you're way better off just donating to the PayPal if you care about the channel and want to help me or whatever. So just pointing that out. That's and of course super chats are always welcome, but YouTube, I feel like it'd be fair for them to take like 5-10%. They take 30. It's kind of crazy. It's like they don't do anything really. Well, they have to run their whole platform. I guess that costs money.
They got to pay censors to go after Rob's channel and
shut down our videos and stuff. They actually got this email. They're like, we really like your channel. Do you want to go through like YouTube boot camp and like get help from one of our mentors and all this shit? I'm like, that's just gonna put a target on my back. I'm scared to like.
I'm shocked that you even getting that, man. I think that they think.
I think it's an AI thing because it's like how otherwise they would not be sending me that. Like it must be like an automatic.
My hypothesis is they've got you confused with the conference disclosure now, so they're like, okay, and it's not really confused, but it's like they think they're going to try to get some ad revenue. They see ad revenue, so you have an advertising department and then you got a censorship department. I don't think they're communicating exactly, otherwise we'd all be gone. There wouldn't be any offers to us either. I'm still demonetized myself. I have harmful content, but I'm thankful to be here to provide my harmful content to you.
So I found this video. I got it linked in the description, and it's talking about the Gangstalking of targeted individuals, and this is what inspired the whole thing. As I found this, I was like, "Oh, this seems cool," and I want to just present more evidence. And I Oh, the tickets are so. One second here. So it's actually on the bottom of the screen. If you want to do the get tickets to the it's on the ticker, but yeah, this is how you get tickets to the Full Disclosure Now conference. So if you want to come out, it's in St. Petersburg. It's a great conference. It's a great time. I highly recommend it. It would be wonderful to meet you in person, Tony Ann. And
Oh, but it isn't at St. Petersburg. That's in Russia. It's St. Pete's Beach, Florida, right?
yeah, St. Petersburg. Yeah, St. Petersburg.
My Russian altars got the St. Petersburg one.
Yeah.
just joking, but yeah.
Anyway, I found this video, and let's just check it out. Let's see what's going on here with this video. It's by channel. I forget. I got a link in the description. I forget the name. Anyway.
It's merely speculative.
Cryptid Candy, yeah, that's the channel.
Psychiatric evaluation immediately. Not a doc, but symptoms sound like paranoid schizophrenia. Best have him checked and treated. User Charming Roof 7990 makes a concerning post on r/mental health Philippines. Spouse thinks he's being targeted. My husband, 32, has been going on for the past.
To be honest with you, I kind of don't like this video already. I hate videos like this.
Yeah, it's one of these ones that starts slow and they show a lot of images, but there's not a lot of content. I think it's
Let's skip through this. Let's skip through
into
here.
a person's head who is
installed into a person's body that allow gangstalkers the ability to track, monitor, and even control the actions of a victim. And if you think that's strange, well, you haven't seen anything yet.
I see microwave burns.
We're currently looking at what the site targetedjustice.com claims to be.
Yeah, like how would people be getting these if they're not being attacked? This is a very serious question that people should.
Didn't this happen at the conference? 2-3 people.
Maybe.
Wasn't Drago burned or something? I think so. I don't. Maybe it's something.
Burns. These alleged microwave burns supposedly radiate from devices that gangstalkers install in different areas of one's living space, even from a toilet.
It's September the 10th, 2024, and the back of my legs are getting targeted from frequencies emitting from my toilet right here, this bottom stem part.
These photos and videos are concerning. And it still gets darker.
There is technology that can project sounds and voices into a person's head who is targeted for such psychological torture. That's what happened to me.
Victims of gangstalking call themselves targeted individuals, or TIs for short, and they believe that they are at the center of a mass surveillance and torture campaign, meant to slowly break them down. Until.
If I can help another targeted individual fight back against telepathy, then the sacrifice will be well worth it. To any TIs who read this, understand that your attackers use the form of ventriloquism I describe in the paper to move your thoughts. The most horrific weapon ever made is being used on human beings. And if you ever learn the truth, you will understand what I did here to protect myself and my family.
November 20th, 2014. It's a day many will never forget in Tallahassee and beyond. What started out as a night of studying in a college library turned to tragedy because of one man, Myron May. May believed he was a victim of gang stalking.
Gangstalking is an umbrella term describing a series of techniques utilized by a group to instill mental instability within a victim, with the intent to discredit, sabotage, harass, extort, and even drive a victim to unalive. A victim of gangstalking can have their reputation, credibility, careers, relationships, and entire life put into ruins. Techniques such as mind games, perception manipulation, organized stalking, covert harassment, constant surveillance, and possibly electronic harassment are used to push a victim to mental instability. Proving one's targeting can be very challenging, and there is very little law enforcement support, which allows gangstalking to be extremely effective.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms.
How much more can you invade me than to go into my brain?
It sounds like somebody else is reading the book, only it's thoughts.
We're not having our
Yes, this is a video we just watched, obviously.
Yeah.
They're called directed energy weapons. These weapons use microwave technology, particle beams, sound beams, and other methods to control, damage, induce schizophrenic experiences, and even kill. You'll often hear targeted individuals refer to...
So I want to just pause this real quick to talk about something.
I wanted to mention something real quick before you start. The last segment, they talked about it going on. They said the military had this for 60 years. Now, there's a patent in the U.S. Patent Office from 1980, and that was talked about at the conference by Penny Bradley. So I remember having, when I was about a year old, I know this because it was the very day that my mother met my stepdad at a birthday party it was a party for her best friend's little boy who turned into my cousin later when they got married. And I remember this because it was one of these key points in my life. And one of the things that they did as a program asset, as I remember, key points in my life when I shouldn't have a memory recall of it due to age. So, and this is everything from that to getting, from what food I ate as a baby and things and getting changed. I actually remember a lot of it. And I had a high level of understanding, but I also remember people talking to me and coaching me along to be a baby, like to get through it. And I think it could have been the voice to skull back then, or it could have been an altar. I don't know, but they were talking to me because I always wondered at a year old, how could I have such complex thoughts and be able to read someone's personality at a birthday party, and then talk back to myself as a second person. So it just didn't seem right. But I just wanted to bring that up because I do believe it has been going on longer than people say, but I think that it didn't go mainstream for the public until at least after 1980. Well, like I said, It starts in the black budget world and it moves into, the light of day in society. So it starts there, and then that's just like what they're doing, all the tech. As above, so below. What's in a dumb's surfaces eventually.
Yeah, I want to bring up with me, I have personal experience as far as how this technology can be used to kill people and how dangerous it is and how wrong it is, because I have personal experience with my father. It's in my book, Time and Space Unlimited, which, by the way, is available on Amazon. People, buy it if you can. But anyway, my dad, he heard the voices. He got the voice to skull. They were using it against him. And the way my aunt explained it when I came out, she's like, "Yeah, your dad used to talk about all, like, the aliens and like all this weird stuff." And he seemed to be kind of making sense. And then he started talking about Jesus and stuff. And then he didn't make any sense anymore. And I think that's where the voice to skull came in, because it said like he was Jesus or like I was Jesus or something like that. And it was telling him all this crazy stuff. But it told him, my dad, he had the Omega programming come through. He said he even, I remember when telling me he saw all red. And basically he said that like demons were telling him that if he didn't unalive himself, they would go after and unalive his whole family and get rid of him. And so he took a knife to his own throat. And we got home from some sort of family outing or went to the grocery store with my mom or something. I can't remember what it was, but he was on the floor bleeding to death. And and he miraculously survived from that. But that is an example of how this technology can quite literally be used to kill people, and it has been used to kill people. And I'm sure there's probably dozens of examples that have gotten swept under the rug and will never see the light of day where they killed people, where they drove them to suicide.
Yeah,
So I want
and
to make it clear.
it's also an emotional implant too. They'll put in you as well, or they'll bring something out of you, such as depression. They engineer a situation, they make it very unhappy and put you in a state of despair. And then, of course, then they harass you and they say these things to you. I mean, I used to get, when I was trying to go public and I was struggling to get myself together, I would be just constant throughout the day. I would hear, "You're going to die." And it was just like that. It was like this crazy voice. And, maniacal telling me I was going to die. And I just laughed at it and said, well, get it over with, but schedule on a day where I can get my affairs in order, because I need to delete my internet history. You just kind of have to take an attitude like that.
Yeah, I still can't get over that face I saw, man.
Since I believe they did extra heavy testing in the Vietnam Wars.
Yeah. I was gonna say, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the Vietnam Wars, and it's weird. I just did an interview earlier today, and a lot of the same stuff's coming up. John Whitberg talks about Vietnam and Project Ibis in his book, and yes, there was a lot of very wild stuff going on there. They're testing a lot of things. There are little battles with giant aliens and stuff like that during that war. There was the Center of Biological Invasives, basically, which was in Vietnam, and it's basically the organization on Earth that gets rid of centaurs, anything that's not human, basically, that's not supposed to be here. So aliens, human animal hybrids like centaurs and other beings and stuff like that. Yeah, there's all sorts of weird stuff going on with the Vietnam War. That got kind of written out of history. I mean, a lot of these wars, the history that we got is like super watered down, and they take all the really crazy parts about like how there's ET technology involved and stuff like that. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Rocky Mountain Skywatcher. Like that's probably not only probably true, it is true. Yeah, they did a lot of testing in there, and then I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, Nathan.
Well, I mean, what you're saying about with the wars and stuff like that, there's a whole history that we have that for many people sounds overly fantastic and ridiculous. That when you bring these things up, but what you have to understand is that these like a centaur, for example, human animal hybrids, they've been in the human psyche for a very long time. They're depicted in ancient cultures. And it isn't just myth and fantasy. These were real people with intelligence. They had to live off the land and they had to like make it work. They lived harder lives than we did, and they were much more resourceful. And I think overall much more intelligent, because they had to be in order to survive in a primitive state. But to say that they're all crazy and that these things it's just myth and legend and it's nonsense because they're primitive thinking people is absurd. So
there's all sorts of one thing, Kat was talking about it. Kat, I gotta have her on the show more because she has a lot of information. In fact, I think we might do a show tomorrow. But anyway, she knows a lot about like these rabbit people, like the Japanese would like talk about them, and they were in manuscripts that of people were. This was not satire. This wasn't hypothetical. They were historians, and these rabbit people would go around and do all sorts of stuff. Would cook people. There's depictions of them cooking humans and stuff like that. But anyway, I want to bring up because Roger said this. So, Roger, if you want to take a look into after this show, there's a whole nother show on this channel about the Son of Sam. And I brought him up with these interviews. A lot of stuff I brought up in the last interview I did. Basically, the Son of Sam was a psychological operation. It happened in 1976, coincidentally enough. It was the first operation of Michael Aquino, who became the head of psychological operations of the United States military in 1975. So one of the first psychological operations that he carried out was the Son of Sam operation. And yes, they did use voice-to-skull technology on the Son of Sam. And basically what they were doing is there was a church. So this was a time travel thing. I'm just going to, and you can watch the little video on it. I'm going to paraphrase it heavily here. There was a church that was very sociable, very revolutionary, very Christ-like, I guess you could say, called the Church of the Holy Sacred Heart. And they were going to end up becoming a thing in New York City, and a lot of the Son of the Sam operation was deleting those people from the timeline. Some of it was very blatant in public, like the public executions that were going on that he was killing off. But I also killed people in clandestine ways that didn't really reach the newspaper and stuff, and people thought they just died coincidentally. So there was so much more beyond that than people realized, and that was actually part of Project Phoenix 2, and it was basically, yeah, it was. I worked directly under Michael Rocchino for that operation, and I actually was in New York City during that time and a part of all that. I was literally there. So yeah, look into that more. There's a lot of information on that, and in fact, Paul Berkowitz is still alive, and I actually am interested in potentially going to talk to him in person to see if he remembers me, because I believe that he would have seen me probably. And that would be fucking nuts, wouldn't it, if I went and visited him and he's like, oh yeah. I mean, it's already I don't know if you know Doris Neely, she's from the CIA. She saw me in an interview and was like, oh, I remember you, and I saw you at the CIA office and all this stuff. She's seen me before. So it's like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
but
for those wondering, they sometimes use these bodies, sometimes they give us other ones. So
yeah, sometimes they look a little different. We always do look kind of the same.
Sometimes the gender's
we
different.
don't always be like, yeah, but we don't always look exactly the same. Your nose might be a little different. Your teeth might be a little off center or whatever. You might look a little different, but your soul does kind of imprint on a body, and you do sort of look a certain way, right? Am I right about that? I mean, that's what I've experienced. You might you sort of look the same way no matter what body you're in.
I kind of wonder what I look like in my ET body. Hopefully, I have a smaller head and maybe different nose. I don't know. It's just, it is what it is. It's a crapshoot.
There's a question here. Yeah, I think you guys, your whole family's in the programs. It's not just your sons; it's you too. Actually, is what I think. Spaceships usually don't just hover over people's houses for no reason. So yeah, I would highly, if you ever want to talk to me, I've got my whole thing. You can send me an email and we can talk about it. Otherwise, Misha Johnson's great too, and she has support groups if you want to talk to her, because it's not just a support group. There'll be multiple people dealing with similar things, might have similar questions. So I highly recommend connecting with Misha Johnson. And if you want to connect with me, if you want to learn more about it. But yeah, just suffice to say, I don't think spaceships just like hang out over people's houses for no reason. You're definitely got something going on, I would say.
Also, for Misha, she's available. Her meetings are Wednesday at 7, and I think that's Eastern time, and that would be 4 p.m. Pacific. And then Sundays, I believe I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's 3 p.m. Eastern time. So it might be.
And then we got a new one that's going to be on Thursday that I'm actually going to be co-hosting, and it's for Gen X or Gen Z and millennials. So I'm actually going to be co-hosting one of the support groups with Misha now, which is an absolute honor. She asked me to do that.
Cool. I didn't know you had anything to do with her, other than the conference, just meeting her.
No, she literally asked me this today. I mean, it just so happens that we're bringing her up right now. Yeah, I'm going to be co-hosting the support group she's trying to reach a younger audience, and honestly, like, I would love to help continue her work, because somebody's going to need to continue her work when she's no longer with us, and yeah,
we need more. We need more of it, not just one person. She's by herself right now, mostly.
Do it all either. You're exactly right. She can't do it all by herself. She needs help.
Yeah. I think we're all kind of getting that intuitive message that we've got to take care of this younger generation, because that's the ones that actually make this happen. We contribute to that. I don't see us actually getting across the finish line with this in any way. I think we get them there, honestly. Some of us may live through it. You may see it, but not me. I don't think. I don't know. Sorry,
for people who want her information, that's her website, and all of her contact info and stuff, like for Misha, it's all on the website. So yeah, just check out that website, Rocky Mountain. And I will always she's like the godmother, of the whole SSP community, really. I don't know where I'd be without her, honestly. She's a hero to me, man. Misha is a hero.
She's put over 30 years of personal sacrifice into this.
Yeah.
That's a rare thing, and it's extremely hard to get anybody to do anything positive with each other in this community. It's very fractured, and when you find someone like that, then they deserve.
She's all about unity for sure. She's all about unity and doing cool things, and we all love Misha. Anybody who has something against Misha, I got something against them, because she must be protected at all costs. She's one of those people. But yeah, I guess we can continue with this video, which is pretty interesting actually. At the beginning, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this, but it's just doing okay so far. Let's see what else they got to say here.
Lots of ugly colors, though.
Yeah, lots of like red. They're trying to do the whole horror shock thing and scare you. That's what So, but for better or for worse.
Called voice-to-skull messaging, or by its acronym, V2K. Voice-to-skull technology can cause victims to hear voices and other audio inside of their own head, completely inaudible to anyone else. You may hear mentions of remote neural monitoring, which is a form of functioning neuroimaging, allegedly developed by the NSA. This is a device capable of accessing and decoding thoughts without a person's knowledge or consent. You may even hear mentions of synthetic telepathy, which is where two brains can communicate with each other just by thinking. This is achieved through an intermediary, such as a computer. Targeted individuals allege that they are under the control of these directed energy weapons. They believe they are the guinea pigs of this mind control technology that's being implemented all around the world in covert programs, sort of like an MKUltra 2.0. But is there any proof that these weapons are real? Is there any evidence at all? Well, as it turns out,
they want to see if they can manipulate people to do things that are irrational, but also walk them to their death.
There's plenty of it.
That man they just showed worked on this technology and has written at least 2 books
Just
called
because
Project
directed energy
Dreamcatcher.
weapons exist doesn't mean they are actually being used on unsuspecting individuals. But you can clearly begin to see the complexity and sensitivity of this subject. While researchers state that gangstalking as a phenomena is due to mental illness, targeted individuals insist that they are victims. So what organization is behind the program? Who are the alleged gangstalkers? Well, isn't it obvious? Government agencies, law enforcement, the military, insurance companies, the CIA, the FBI, pharmaceutical companies, secret societies, homeland security, criminal organizations are just a few examples of alleged gangstalkers. In fact, there's a whole category of targeted individuals who identify as chosen ones. Chosen ones believe that they were chosen by God to walk an appointed spiritual path. They believe that they must prove themselves worthy or able to overcome challenges put forth by demonic entities in order to protect their unique spiritual gifts.
That sounds kind of crazy, not gonna lie. But
I've seen videos like this where people came through my Facebook feed early on when I started getting on there, and when I say early on, it was just when I started using it to kind of connect with people in the community. People were coming on and calling themselves that they're like, "What do you do if you're a chosen one?" And they were and it was literally somebody walking through a public park talking about being targeted, and then but they lost me when they started they now have a religious context to it. And I'm thinking, now these people they're being targeted by Satan because they have this spiritual path. There's some degree of truth in that, but I mean, it's not like what they think it is. The reality is that, well, okay, was it Jerry Marzinski? I think he's the guy that wrote that book, and I have it here. I haven't read it yet, but he ties in schizophrenia and the voices in people's heads, and he sees patterns in their behavior, what they say. They're all basically saying the same thing. They have the same psychological and emotional warfare strategies that they're employing on people. And it is, identical to what people call demonic possession, and it's because they're using the same tactics. The military with the V2K uses the same tactics as evil entities do because they're in league and they're in business together. That's simply it.
That's a really fucking good point, Nathan.
Well, we had actually, we had Olivia James on. That was the podcast that we did with Misha when we did the tribute to her. Remember what she said? These are people that's like a special corps. Instead of putting you in the SSP or Super Soldier, whatever, these alters go into this special core group of handlers. And that's what I got out of it too. Everything that she said was accurate because I dealt with them 16 hours a day for a long period of time. And I asked them, and I played psychological warfare, and I got as much information out of it as I could. And they would admit periodically, and I tripped them up. I block thoughts. I do a lot of different mind games, but they admitted some of them were alters, and I think all of them are, because that's what Olivia said. But they wanted to kind of give me the idea that some of these people were just kind of working on their own, but that's for the private sector. That's for the regular people. The people going after us are not your typical run-of-the-mill tech, military industrial complex employee of a tech company who becomes a TI if they quit, or if they go public and say they're part of it. It's different. We've got much worse targeting and much more serious a-holes than what these regular people have, because they're using a much higher level of technology as well, and they have access to demonic entities and all this other stuff that they're using.
Yeah, it does get crazy. I totally believe you, man. Because, like, I know that these, for me, like what I've experienced in these programs, one of the hardest memories I have that I've dealt with is like the rituals, blood rituals, where they're feasting on blood and they're killing a child or multiple children, and a reptile being or some sort of demon being comes through the portal, and they ask you, "Where's your God? Doesn't God love you? Doesn't like Jesus love you? Where's Jesus? Where's God? Like, our God's here. He's gonna feast on this child with us and drink their blood and all this stuff. Where's your God?" Like, they mock you, and they're like, "Oh, I guess you're not important to God. I guess God doesn't love you." Like, it's fucking crazy, man. It's really sick.
What do you think was going on when I got in that Joy of Satan cult? Everybody in there had gotten to the point where they thought that God had abandoned them. It was it was a remarkable group of people. I will say that, because you had my labs, and I don't know where these other people fit in.
And here's the thing that I realized after a long time.
They were targeted prior to going in there. Go ahead.
This is what I've realized after a long time of being in these projects and what I've seen, and it's sad, but it's true. God didn't abandon us. We abandoned God. And
well, that's what the AI does.
That's something that humanity has a really, really hard time accepting. God has never abandoned us. We abandoned God.
And really what you need to know where God is, and people look for God their whole life. They go to church, they go to synagogues, they go to temples.
And it's literally in the mountain. It's in the mountains, it's in the forests, it's in the seas, and in the moments with their loved ones. Like, God is the creation that we're all a part of and in love, and just like, you do it all wrong. You don't need to go to a fucking church. You look at a sunset. Enjoy a sunset with somebody you love. That's going to church. That's worshiping God.
In a sense, but yeah, you can see these things, but you got to have love in your heart. That's where, because that's where really what God is. The energy that comes through is love. It's nothing else. Excuse me. It always gets me choked up, because I've been going through these experiences, which I don't want to really get into, but just to give you a little bit of an idea is, I guess I will go into it. Whenever I come up with an idea of something positive to do, generally has to do with a life mission stuff, which is trying to improve the conditions in this community, making it better, and coming up with some ideas to help people, either individuals or just everyone in general. I'll go through a period where I get a confirmation. And the confirmation comes, it's just like an intense feeling of love and appreciation. And that's why I'm getting choked up. Because
it sounds like it must be really profound. I can tell.
No, it's excuse me. It has to do with the fact that I miss where I came from.
Which was like a place with much more love, probably.
Most places might have a lot more love than this one.
And there's places that are worse than Earth.
Yes,
But yeah,
it's really, really bad. And when you're in it, and you're in this, and we're not just in this in the here and now, and that's not just it. All of our pieces that are hijacked, our altars, where you want to call them soul fragments, are in this torment, and it's all happening simultaneously. And you have the other unhijacked parts of yourself through quantum entanglement. There's a silver cord. It's you on different timelines and different points in this timeline, past, present, future. They're all you, and they can all connect. But because of the simulation they've got us in, they break us up. And that's why they can create fractures and put our other pieces to work for them. So, I get all this from, it's hard to describe, but anyway, I'll just leave it there, because it really, really gets emotional for me. And I had a hard time on the cosmic switchboard trying to articulate this as well. So it's just, it's an emotional state that
we appreciate. I think I can speak for probably a vast majority of the audience and say we appreciate your authenticity, Nate. It's not always easy to be vulnerable, especially in a public setting where you got people watching you. So, and this is kind of a situation where we can't really have walls up, and we kind of need to be super brutally honest. Like, we gotta have more of that in this community. So appreciate that, Nathan. Yeah, I guess I can continue more of this videos. There's some interesting stuff going on. Still got the red filter over everything.
They believe that demons appear in their life, often in the form of people, and they must stay on their spiritual path. Chosen ones may blame sickness or negative emotions on black magic, witchcraft, and other spiritual attacks.
Yeah.
Now, moving on from chosen ones, the most popular culprit of alleged gangstalking is some type of government agency. The idea that the government is practicing mass surveillance isn't anything new or surprising. With news headlines in the media every couple of years highlighting whistleblowers that have come forth to allege that our phones, computers, and other devices can be hacked to watch and monitor individuals, I think we all just sort of accept the possibility. I mean, considering that the internet was invented by DARPA, a government agency, who as of 2021 has a mission statement to, quote, make pivotal investments in breakthrough technologies for national security. On top of that, the touchscreen on your phone, the voice recognition, the microphone, the GPS, the microprocessors, the batteries for those microprocessors, the wireless technology, that was all created by DARPA. Now, DARPA technology is said to be 20 years ahead of civilian technology. Now, I'm not alleging that the government is watching you. I'm saying that the concept isn't that strange. In fact, by 2018, the Monmouth Polling Institute found that 82% of respondents voiced that they believe that the government is watching the actions of American citizens. But gangstalking goes far beyond just being watched and listened to. When researchers conduct gangstalking case studies, the requirement for a case to be considered gangstalking is that there must be at least 3 individuals involved. The group must conspire to stalk, harass, or threaten a victim, and must be organized with a clear purpose. By these qualifications, as long as there's more than 3 or more people involved, it's gangstalking. And if it's not some government agency, often corporate organizations are also accused of this nefarious activity. I want to preface this by saying that I do not condone the harassment of any individual. I wasn't going to mention this story, but this individual has voiced that she would want her story shared. There are some allegations in this story that are simply that, allegations. Please do not attempt to contact any individual mentioned in this video. These attacks are happening to me, Ella Gorla, because I was a whistleblower while an executive director at MAC Cosmetics and Estee Lauder companies. If these things are happening to me, they can happen to anybody. Ella Gorla is a co-founder and CEO of 25BWB, a beauty company promoting racial diversity within the beauty industry. Educated and acclaimed for what she has accomplished within her field, at one point being named Inc. magazine's 11 Leaders to Watch in 2011.
Her name is Ella Gorla. Now, Time Inc. called her website one of New York City's top 10 startups, and the fashion world has fallen in love with her site, iella.com.
Ella was active on different social media sites, one of which being Instagram, making posts regularly. Her posts showed off her various accomplishments, news articles, motivational quotes, and more. All normal content for any Instagram user to be posting. She even made a post celebrating the fact that she got accepted into seminary school. Things, however, took an unexpected twist on April 19th, 2021. Gorla makes a post with the following message. I'm sharing this because I have no choice. My life is in danger. It's as if someone has chosen to sacrifice me with absolute no regard for my hopes and dreams. I'm stunned to have to write this, especially at a time when I should be celebrating admission to seminary school. I'm pleading with you to please share and contact the Manhattan DA to investigate or anyone you know. I do not trust my own sister in the city. It's heartbreaking and sad. God will prevail. Ella goes on to claim the following. Wednesday, April 14th, around 8:30 p.m., someone leaked the gas into the apartment I was temporarily leasing. My face became tingly, I got dizzy, my pulse elevated to 130. I barely made it out the door. It nearly killed me. I believe the gas was carbon monoxide. Fire department, NYPD, and EMS was called. A week prior, April 8th, the building claimed they had to replace a carbon monoxide detector. I resisted, but they insisted. The two men that came to replace it looked more like security agents than technicians. I was very uncomfortable. Ella goes on. After the incident at the apartment, I went to a hotel in the city. Again, an odorless, tasteless gas was leaked into the hotel room I was staying in. Similar symptoms, dizziness, accelerated heart rate. I was terrified.
This is kind of freaking me out because this is something that happened to my friend. One of my friends, and like it's a long story. Like they thought their parents were doing it to them and all this stuff, and I don't really know what happened. I didn't talk to them for a really long time. They actually ended up going to jail and all this stuff. They're out now. They're doing a lot better. But it just makes me think of that. I remember him telling me like he went in his room and like there was like some chemicals in it, and like his heart started racing, and he almost thought he was gonna die, and he like ran out of there. It just makes me think of that. Just kind of odd.
I knew I was being targeted. The day prior, I noticed a very strange guy on my floor when I left my room. I notified the front desk and had the hotel attendant escort me back to my room. Ella claims that she was being targeted and that someone was out to harm her, making a follow-up post in which she states, "Someone is trying to kill me. I would never harm myself. I need protection. Please share this message." Over the next several days, Ella goes on to post what she claims to be video/photo evidence.
But why don't you guys go in the room and stay in there for 5 minutes? But if anyone could stay in there for 5 minutes, because you're firemen, right? You're supposed to do the right thing. Yes, but you know something is wrong. That's why you can't stay in there for 5 minutes. Okay? Shame on you. Shame on you. You're firemen. You're supposed to be saving lives, not covering stuff up. I'm supposed to go to seminary school. I just got accepted to Princeton Seminary. I'm supposed to go in the fall. And people are pretending like I'm crazy.
2 days after the
She does seem a little crazy.
Ella makes a post
Hey,
about blood
stop it for a
sacrifices taking
second, our
place
team. I
within
want
the
to bring
music
something
and
up. The reason this is important is because people will have these experiences and eventually they start to detach from reality to a degree because they don't have the discernment to tell when they're being targeted and when the
they're not.
targeting ends exactly, and then when something else is happening. A lot of times you're in an engineered scenario where things are going to go wrong anyway, and then you're going to just blame it all. This is why it's so important to have a support
Sometimes they
group.
maybe are doing stuff is to try to make you react, and
Yes.
so to make you look crazy, right?
Also for R&D purposes too, because they're doing neuro mapping or neural mapping. So they're inducing stimuli and then they're looking at how the brain responds. But I think by now they've gotten all this. I think the private sector that's running these programs for regular people is probably caught up with the sector that we deal with, which is the black budget world. So, but overall, the main thing is with this is that people will start to lose touch with reality. The thing that they want you to do is they want you to isolate so that you're dealing with this exclusively on your own. And of course, a lot of these people, because they're isolated, they start making social media posts, which then get censored and just put in an echo chamber. And then you kind of come across it if you're in this community. But these people are in agony, they're suffering, and there's nobody there. That's why we need to get people to start coming together who were TIs, MyLabs, whatever, and support one another, because this woman was all by herself. She had nobody. So that's why these things go, the way they do. And there's so many people that could be saved if they had somebody to talk to.
So this guest says that that talk with their relationship with God helped them, which that's good. Let's say that's a positive thing.
That can happen. That actually can happen.
So yeah. So I figured that was worth sharing because people are always like, "What can I do? What can help me?" People who are targeted individuals. So yeah, that helped
Even if
them.
it doesn't
Help others as well.
Even if it doesn't solve the problem, it lessens the blows that you take. So
Yeah, but you're talking about
idiots.
building a community and how important it is for TIs to be there for each other and stuff like that. And it looks like there is quite an extensive community out there, but I think it needs to be kind of like you said, more localized, where you can actually message your friend, certain people, and yeah, even something as simple as a big group chat on a Facebook Messenger or Signal or Telegram or something like that would be really.
I get a better idea. I've always thought that we needed a community. So with the Full Disclosure Now network, this whole thing is kind of in the works. There is a forum coming. I don't know if you knew about it, or Keen, you probably would have brought it up. But yeah, there's going to be a community forum, and my idea is where to educate people to avoid handlers, to be able to break free from the mind control and do something different than what Project Avalon, what their mission statement was to chronicle. I think it was to chronicle the human awakening. I think we've awoken enough. We actually have to do something with it. So it's time to take it from there and actually put it into action. We just need to get people together. That's the biggest issue. Facebook does not do it. None of these social media platforms are going to do it. Need to have something where people with the right idea can put something into action, and then hopefully other people will help.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you're doing a good job kind of calling some good things to action and making some positive things, positive movements here as far as getting people together and, because obviously these people that do this stuff are really organized. And it was like you're saying before, that's kind of one of the things. Didn't they say, you say they like mocked you sort of over the fact that they're so organized and that all they have to do is send somebody into our little group and
that's what they said to Olivia James. If you go back to might have been episode 4, it was the Misha James tribute. She brings it up. One of the things that they mocked me early on was the whole God thing. They literally told me they were portraying themselves as military personnel at a base, right? It was either Holloman Air Force Base or somewhere in New Mexico. And they literally just were like, Why do you believe in God? You know, why do all of you, my labs, believe in God when we know that it's just us? And that was always the running theme. There's nothing else. It's just us. We can do what we want. So they attack all of these things, but they act like demons because they more or less are in the flesh. There's not really anything left of these people. They're disgusting degenerates. They're into the most perverse sexual deviancy you could possibly imagine, and they try to get other people to do that too. They influence you to do that. They're evil. I mean, that's just what it is. They take everything that's good, with everything that's positive and good in the world, and they invert it.
Yeah, no, preaching to the choir. It's unfortunate and it's sad, and I don't wish them like being tortured like they did to me, or being hurt like they did to me. I honestly wish that they could understand like love and not be so messed up. Like that's what I wish more than anything else, is that they can find some sort of semblance of like forgiving themselves and like moving forward and not being monster pieces of shit anymore. They can, you know what I mean? Because it's kind of like Courtney Brown says, Isbies, they don't really die; they go on forever. And
Right.
it's from my experience with what I've experienced as a very, very ancient being. If you want to go down the dark path, you can get very, very powerful, but you relies on you consuming, like flame needs you need wood. You need to keep throwing wood into a fire in order to keep it burning, that kind of thing, right? Whereas love, it's kind of its own energy source. So, and what that consumption, that need for consumption, it's like a drug. It gets bigger and bigger, and eventually you get to this really low place, and it's really, really hard to get out of, and it's a really dark place to be. And I've been there, and it's a miracle that I got out of it. And it's just really what I'm getting at is just the path of light, love is like just so much better, and it's never too late. Even if you get to that real dark, low place, you can still get out and go towards the light and go towards what's better. And it's better for your immortal soul. It's better for you. It's better for people around you. It's better for the universe. These agents of chaos, these bad actors, these people, their religion is a joke. Their culture is a joke. What they believe in is fucking ridiculous. Like none of it makes any sense. Like it's all antithesis. It's all topsy-turvy, upside-down world. None of it makes any sense. Like like I remember, like I worked for Aquino. I really actually remember this, Nathan. And the memories aren't like super duper clear, but there's a lot of different stuff with Aquino I remember, man. And I just remember how like when I did something and he wanted to congratulate me and be like, "Hey, you did a great job," you kind of couldn't even do that because this. It's almost like in Rick and Morty when they have the people that are like get off on like being evil and dark, and how they make a big joke out of it. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about? Like the guys that like they have like needles going through their head because they like being in pain because they like evil.
Like
weird
yeah,
shit.
like Pinhead
It's
or
almost like that. It's like they're almost comical and ridiculous. I mean, the guy literally looks like fucking Eddie Munster, dude.
Well,
He
that
literally looks like Eddie Munster. Like they are
listen,
kind of like they act on their beliefs and they're psychotic and they're honestly scary. But at the same time, what a clown! He looks like a clown. He's like a clown man. Like
he looks disgusting, and there's a music group came out. What do they call it? Have you ever heard that song? It goes, "You and me, you're nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they do it."
oh my god, yeah. This
Doesn't he look
kind
like
of cheesy.
Aquino, like a young version of Aquino? The
Oh,
guy
I
that sings.
never really paid attention enough to look at the video.
I always looked at his face, and I just was like, ew. And then I saw a picture of Aquino, and then when you guys were actually doing the one on Aquino, you showed some old pictures. I think it was documentary sections you guys were talking about. And it was a video like this, but it showed him looking like Eddie Munster, but he looked more like that guy who's the singer in that pop group. And I looked at him, and it just like it made me sick. And I realized why it was bothering me when I was looking at the guy dressed in that monkey suit singing and rapping, because he looks like him. I don't know if it's almost as if in my psyche there's somewhere I crossed paths with the piece of shit, because when I saw that
Project Ibis, dude.
and when I saw you as
If you're
a
a part of
young,
Project Ibis, then you know Aquino.
don't know if I told you this, but and I may have, I don't know, but you put a picture up. It was about, you were doing some kind of music thing. You put a picture up of yourself as when you were younger. I swear to fucking God, I know what, I've seen you someplace. I don't know where it is, but it felt like in an oppressive base of some kind or facility. You were kind of a chubby kid with the same curly hair.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, and I could see you from a memory, but I couldn't place where it was. And then I saw that piece of shit, and that was, you know, after I saw him at a younger age, it made me sick.
He's messed with me a lot. Aquino has. We're actually going to be doing a show in the near future with our mutual good friend Mario. Talking about Aquino. Basically, he had us in this weird little gaggle of little boys that it was fucking weird, man. He made us like dress like him and look like him, and it's just super fucking weird, dude. It's gonna be a weird show, but he talked about it in the chat, and like I was getting the memories back, and I was like, holy cow. And I just reached out to him. I was like, let's do a show on this. He's super busy, so it's not gonna be till like February, but we're gonna be doing a show on that thing. He says it reminds him of the movie Little Vampires, kind of. But like, yeah, we're like little fucking like Eddie Munsters, dude. Like,
they dressed you up like that with the widow's peak and everything.
Like pretty much what I think like what we look like. Another thing that's kind of weird. It's like a side note. Like, there's this experience that I had with my brother when I was a kid. I guess we should get back to the electronic warfare stuff after this.
Yeah, but I think Aquino needs to be made to drink his own blood, in my opinion.
But I just remember when they put me back one time.
Piece of garbage.
My brother would kind of bully me, and I remember for whatever reason, I jumped from under the table and bit his leg really hard because I was used to biting people and taught making them afraid of you, so you're not afraid of them. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird side note. But, dude, yeah, Aquino was weird. He was into, obviously, I was raped by him a lot. I'm not allowed to say that on YouTube. Oops. And abused by him.
The genital mutilation and things like that. And disgusting.
Dude, the guy's into fucking poop, dude.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird.
I got a terrible version of that.
Yeah, and all sorts of
shit, so might as well. Well, if you're a piece of shit to that level, I guess it goes with the territory.
It goes with the territory. And yeah, that was actually something that even with the Presidio, that was talked about with the Presidio, how they did stuff with poop. So it's like,
yeah, it's like I'm going to go as low as the gutter. I'm going to go below the gutter and try to get some accolades from the devil. It seems it's like the worst I'm going to do is most extreme things to be as evil as possible and see where it gets me. I mean, that's what it seems like. That's what it feels like. It's just sick and disgusting.
Yeah, these are some of the people that I mean, I really do think like the same, like the, you know, satanic groups that we're kind of talking about right now. I think they're behind a lot of this gang stalking, targeted individual stuff. So even though it's a little off topic, it's sort of in a way is, right?
They're at the core of the mind control. They're at the influential level of the planning of it. They're ingrained in the entire thing, and they use this SRA abuse and other things to get their way with people.
Yeah.
So,
honestly, I feel like we're just having a great show. I really appreciate you being here. This has been a really fun conversation. I'm not wrapping it up. It sounds making it sound like I'm wrapping it up, but let's see what else is going on with this video. Maybe play it a little more. I don't know if we're gonna end up watching this whole thing. It's super long, honestly, but let's watch a little bit more of it.
Media industry. She believes that she herself had been offered up as a blood sacrifice. She claimed there was a cover-up, alongside claiming that the police refused to take a report, the fire department refused to...
I think I want to go past this woman. Let's go to where he stops talking about her.
We kind of know what's going to happen with her. She probably
Sometimes people call this blue car syndrome. So when you start looking into gang stalking tactics...
The one thing people need to understand with the gang stalking is they can instantly create gang stalkers and actually turn people against you randomly in social situations. It's people that are prone to being ignorant, rude, aggressive, homophobic, racist, whatever it is, if you're walking into it and they're targeting you, they can get people to turn just by putting emotions and thoughts into their head, because most people, you know, and it isn't because of the stabinations or anything else, but most people generally in this world are an open vessel for this type of thing. I've seen police officers who are hell-bent on taking me in for a DWI and whatever.
You know what I think it is, man? You know what I
They
think
walk,
it kind of is?
they can, what?
I think it's kind of like the Agent Smith effect, man, in a way. Like, not literally, but like sort of almost, you know, like people are all mind controlled, right? And in certain situations, they become the Agent Smith, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the AI is the walk-in, you know, it like takes them over. I've had police pull me over with contraband in the vehicle, and I should have been searched. We should have been out on the car outside the car getting handcuffed. And he comes back after he runs my license and comes back, and it's like, everything's cool now. Just going to give you a ticket, and I'll see you later. And it's like, you know, and a friend of mine sitting next to me with spilled beer all over him and all over the floor and cans in the back seat. And did that just happen? I'm like, yeah, let's get out of here. So I've seen them do this, and I've seen them turn people against me. And I literally had premonitions going into the situation. So they do that to you as well. This is what we're listening to is nothing compared to what some of us go through. So I just want people to know that this is like 50%.
So you're kind of bringing it to the next level, letting people know.
Yeah. And I've talked to just people recently, you know, the thing like seeing the headless flying black chicken thing, shit. There's other people in the community or TIs that see these same things. You know, in fact, the day after it happened, I talked to a woman on the phone, and she said, I said, do you see these things too? And she said, yeah. And, you know, I could feel a release in her that after I brought it up, because, you know, you can't tell these things to people. They think you're crazy. That's the problem. And we're conditioned to respond to this as being lunacy, crazy, mental illness. It's programmed into us by the television. I remember watching like old movies and science fiction about aliens, you know, and it was always little green men and everybody would laugh. And it's all based in like peer pressure and peer programming that you respond to these things this way.
Peer programming. I'm surprised I haven't heard that term before. That's a very good one. Yeah. Peer programming. That is what. And, you know, there's like they've done the experiments that they show that people will kind of ignore reality to go along with a group, you know.
Yeah, mental gymnastics. And there's the Stockholm syndrome. There's probably a clinical term for it.
No, there literally is, and I can't think of it. Yeah, there's actually like a term for it. That there's an experiment they did, and they came up with a term. Okay. Study the area where King had his temple had a lot of people missing there. Wasn't that San Francisco?
It was a break off of the Church of Satan, I guess it was, because he was
the Temple of
he
Set.
was with Anton LaVey in that picture they took the spiritual approach, the hardcore stuff that you'd find in Egypt and things. That's what the Temple of Set. They were going back to the demonic roots of these religions. And then Anton LaVey, he took the atheistic approach where it's more or less just a ruse on the Christians. But then again, if he's got something to do with the Kino, it could have been a little bit more than that. But that's the approach that they took, and they split. So he went and created the Temple of Set. Now, interesting, Mario and I did that 2-hour discussion on the Joy of Satan. We're going to do more on it. He wanted to do something over the holiday when we took a break, but I was burnt out. He brought it up to me, and I didn't even think of it. Do you think Aquino had anything to do with the Joy of Satan project? Because he was alive, I think, when that was started. So he had already, if he had to have been involved in this to some degree, or been in the department or the program where this was, and it was supposed to have been IBIS, because the handlers told me that. That's where I came up with, you know, the Project IBIS deception. It was due to the V2K. They had said this was Project IBIS. Before you shoot that down and say, well, they lie. Well, a lot of the program names and a lot of the info comes from these handlers, either coercing them.
I take it with a grain of salt, but I wasn't shooting it down.
Yeah, but you can't discount it, because, I mean, you know, like Olivia James does when she gets information from them, of course, they could be lying to her, but then she goes a bit further, probes them to get information through influencing by literally taking people over at a computer terminal, which can only be done for a matter of minutes or seconds. before the alarm system goes off, because they have neutrino light detectors. That's what I've heard that they're called. They can detect a soul, somebody astral projecting, doing any type of remote viewing. They can tell that because there's a tangible energy signature at a target. If you're remote viewing it, there's a piece of your energy there viewing it and connecting with it through the quantum entanglement, understanding that we have. And it's tangible. It can be felt. That's why the ETs feel it. I did an experiment with a friend, and she felt me at her house in Australia. So, this is real, and this is how it works. We're just energy thinking we're solid. We're pure consciousness. All these things are possible. The illusion is the solid world we live in.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Let's see what's going on with this video.
The user goes on to post the following photos. Also, as a side note, the text on these photos,
I don't know
your job.
more on this.
They're all just acting.
Oh yeah, street theater.
Paid by a shadowy organization to silently harass you and implement methods. Here's the scene. You accidentally drive down the wrong block. You pull into a driveway to turn around and reroute. Your headlights momentarily shine at the window of a house. That's a gang-stalking tactic. Having your high beams on as you drive? Well, that's known as brighting harassment, a gang-stalking tactic. Driving around with one headlight on. That's one headlight harassment. Scratching your nose or hanging your arm out of a car window. That's hand gesture harassment. You and your friends accidentally matching? That's color-coordinated harassment. A lot of same-colored cars all in one place? Those are all gang stalkers. Ever had a green light turn red as soon as you approached it? Gang stalkers.
I think it's important to actually... I agree with this guy. Like, there are people who are literally just tweakers, like, on meth that think they're being gang stalked and they're not.
Oh,
Doesn't mean there are people who are actually being gang stalked, but it's important to bring up because I'm sure people.
Do you see a lot of helicopters?
Hold on just a moment, real quick. The thing with this is it sounds like OCD. Like you start, like there's two red cars, I'm being targeted, or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, and I didn't even remember this, I was on Facebook couple months ago, or month or two, like 2 months ago, and one of the MyLabs in the community was talking about OCD and how she can't stand to have like peas next to mashed potatoes if the food's touching on the plate.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't relate to that, but then when I was talking to another MyLabs at TI just a few days ago, it just dawned on me how badly I had it for a substantial amount of my life growing up into my 20s. Is that, just like this, as simple and silly as this, like you're walking a sidewalk and you say, if I step on a crack, I break my mother's back, right? Because I saw it in a cartoon or a TV show. And I just remember this because it was a good example of it. And I thought if I literally said that to myself and I stepped on a crack, that somebody was listening and they would make it happen. And it's got to has to do with the mind control. Like you said, it's a self-defeating program. But it's form of OCD. Real. It's similar to what they were just discussing, where you literally see patterns and things and you think it's going to get you. They create a total paranoia saturated world for you to live in if you let them, and they will give you these problems. And everything that all of us seem to be going through is either residual damage from the program, is bleeding over, or it's just what they've done to us in our lives. It's disgusting. And, I don't know how much more I could complain about it. Now we got a cat who's hanging out. It's cool.
Yeah, this is China. She's purring really loud, and she's.
I got a tuxedo cat.
Yeah, this is a great cat. She's a good friend, and she's part of a dragon family. Actually, her real name is Thorna. Is China, and Thorna, son of Barthus. Yes.
My mother's got a black cat. I don't like that.
Sorry, sweetie.
I don't know if she still has it or not, but she named it Star. And I had a black cat too. They're actually pretty cool to have a black cat.
Yeah, they're really cool. you know, I feel like they kind of all have their own little energy. Like orange cats kind of got a vibe, black cats kind of got a vibe.
Yeah, and I got a tuxedo cat now, so he's kind of like I don't know, he's like the dignified group. He's like the guy in a Monopoly game. If they even, was that one of those things where they had a Monopoly version? They had like a mascot, a guy in a suit, and now it's not there or something? Was that something to do with the Mandela effect? Thought I saw something like that. Because I remember there being like a Monopoly guy with a suit, and he had a funny looking head, and he had a top hat too, I think. But then I saw something like it wasn't like everybody remembers it, but it's not there anymore. I don't know. Just one of these weird things. I feel like we're in Mystery Science Theater 3000, man. I don't know if you ever seen that as a kid.
Oh, yeah, that's great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy would sit with the two robots and make fun of the horrible movies.
Anyway,
those are gangstalkers.
Basically, it's talking about
Do people cough when you walk by?
all the people that are tripping and everything's gangstalking.
Yeah, now we got
Probably
COVID.
He's got a point, probably a little bit. There probably are people who, not probably, there are people who. I actually had a friend. I'll be real with you, Nathan. I grew up with him. I'm not going to name his name, but family friend, very close to him. He's literally lived with my mother at points, and he started doing meth really bad, and he started thinking he was a targeted individual. And from what I could tell, he was not a targeted individual. At the time, I wasn't very awake, so maybe I was wrong. But I mean, it also did correlate with him beginning to use meth, so he's probably fucking crazy, right? And what I'm getting at is I do really think there are situations where people think they're targeted individuals and they're not. And that's important to bring up. Just like, you see there's fake UFO videos and UFO pictures on the internet. That doesn't mean there aren't any real instances. It's the same thing with the TI thing, I guess, is what I'm getting at,
It is.
But yeah, he's just talking about how some people see all these innocuous.
And on top of that, it was
Petty tactics are noise campaigns. This includes things like honking vehicles or extremely loud modified cars persistently driving past your house, noisy neighbors or neighbors that constantly play loud music, and even electronically produced sounds that mimic animals such as dogs and roosters.
And this is the thing that really piqued my mind to, hey, there's something more going on here. This is kind of crazy. Behind the house, I kept hearing this strange cock-a-doodle-doo noise of like a rooster, but it was the same cock-a-doodle-doo without any variation to it. So it was obvious that it was like a machine and it wasn't a real rooster. And on top of that, it was like from 2 to, it was nonstop, but I noticed it when it was like from 2 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon, which is kind of atypical for a rooster to be crowing nonstop from 2 to 4 in the afternoon.
And of course, there are the voices and sounds that targeted individuals hear inside of their head. But that's for a little later in the video. Allegedly, gangstalkers also practice anchoring, which is a tactic meant to confuse and instill doubt in victims. They do this by setting up scenarios and events that constantly convince targeted individuals that their gangstalking is coming from an unrelated source, such as an ex-boyfriend, an old boss, the police department, and so on. This is done to keep victims playing a never-ending game of who is the gangstalker. There are even more terrifying and intrusive tactics such as black bag operations. This is where gangstalkers secretly break into a victim's house. The gangstalker will then psychologically torment the victim by slightly moving items out of place, vandalizing, disassembling, or stealing items, and even hiding inside the house to track an individual, a real practice known as frogging. There are entire TI websites dedicated to documenting black bag operations. And some TIs, like Dr. Fasika Tafara, well, they go public.
When she'd get home from work, Fasika Tafara started noticing things out of place in her home.
They were just all open, but what was weird is, so for example, they were open like this, but they were all at the same level.
First, the windows, then lights turned on. her cabinets pulled out.
It's intended to let me know that somebody has been here.
And it still gets creepier.
Then Tafara found this small camera in her 11-year-old son's bedroom.
She took to the internet, where she became convinced that she was being targeted and that she was the victim of gang stalking.
Tafara left her phone recording audio at her house. Listen, you can hear what sounds like people rummaging around. On one, you can hear what sounds like drilling.
So this hole here has been cut into the attic space.
It's important to note that Dr. Fasika Tafara isn't just anybody. She is a highly educated, licensed medical professional. TargetedJustice.com.
It seems like it's very much so like maybe one of those people who got targeted because they would do a lot of good for the world if they weren't sitting around having to figure out who the fuck's in their house and why and stuff. You know what I mean? Seems
That
like
or they
Seems like
they need to know how to stick it to medical personnel when they don't administer what they're supposed to. So it could be anything, but she reminds me of Renetta Jones a bit. She's brave and willing to say things other people think are outrageous.
Yeah.
Because she
I
believes
need
it.
to have her on the show, by the way. I still haven't had her on the show.
Yeah, hopefully she'll come on. I can talk to her.
Yeah, so Rob thinks we're in an argument or something. We're not. She just said like someone said something about how memories, proof is important and da 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 da. And all she did was said I have proof for my stuff. Da 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 da. She wasn't saying I wasn't real. She was just saying she had proof for her stuff. That's all.
Oh, that was that shit stir.
Yeah,
That
we're
was
not.
that
We're not in an argument at all. I've always
No.
thought she's great.
I'll say something to her if you want to go on. If you want to have her on. Hey, also too, God, I can't think of her name. The Imagination Channel, Emma, she actually wanted to have you on. It was a couple of weeks ago. I got lost in my inbox. So I wanted to. I'll forward you the email, by the way. So
yeah,
she specializes in SRA and the entertainment industry. We did I think a 3 or 4 hour interview, her and I. So
I would really like to do an interview with her. Okay, forward that to me, please. Thank you.
And for those who think that everybody has a big channel, that they're in on something, well, Emma had like 40 or 50,000 subs and they kicked her off of YouTube. So she's on Rumble now. So support the Imagination Channel. She does outstanding work and she covers the things that nobody wants to talk about, such as the SRA stuff, the Hollywood stuff, and just MyLab stuff in general. She'll go into all that. She's very, very brave. So support her channel on Rumble.
Absolutely. Anyway, more
It's
of
a
this.
site dedicated to helping
Ah, shit. That was an accident. Put it back on.
individuals and documenting evidence of gang stalking. The site contains a plethora of photos, videos, documents, and resources for targeted individuals. Second-degree burns caused by satellite torture on our...
I just want to take a moment to recognize this comment and say that I'm very sorry that your son passed away, and I don't know the details, but I just want to say I believe you, and I'm very sorry that you had to go through that.
Yes, our condolences.
On 16/01/2019. Question: what must have been going on in the head of the responsible SAR Lupus satellite felon to commit such an intentional crime against humanity? What a shame for our German state. This is just one of many photos posted on this site. There is something clearly wrong here. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you what these individuals are suffering from, but some of the faces shown look entirely distorted, and they do appear to be burned. Some of the photos have deep wounds exposed, and some even look like rotting flesh. Now, at the top of the page, there is an explanation for these photos. Targeted individuals all over the world are being burned with microwave weapons. These microwave attacks generally come from cell towers, digital beamforming, and satellites, Vercator. Now, the site goes on to say that the program is secretly funded and directed by the CIA.
I think it's really the
clear that
Defense
these sites
Intelligence
can be
Agency.
problematic. I'm sure they mean well, But these bold allegations are speculative. We really don't know the true context behind those photos. Researchers describe gangstalking as a set of persecutory beliefs. This refers to persecutory delusions, which is a type of delusional disorder where the affected individual believes that harm will occur to them by a perpetrator despite a clear lack of evidence. This is why gangstalking is a difficult subject to tackle, because whether these experiences are due to mental illness like researchers conclude, or whether something truly nefarious is happening, the truth of the matter is that people are still suffering, and that's something to be conscientious about.
If you're looking for a new computer, the place to go is Circuit City right now.
It's simple for program on therapeutic fiber.
Head to broad. Tristan Bold 3 detergent plus fabric soap.
Make sure everybody supports Fabric
If you need a
Softer
little
by
more
Bold.
cryptid candy in your life, check out the brand new channel Discord server. Previously,
Support that too.
a prosecutor for the Doña Ana County District Attorney's Office, May was a well-liked member of his community, and by most of those he met. May had a girlfriend, friends, a successful career, and was well off financially. All seemed to be going well for him. So what changed?
In September, he told police he was being watched and observed. In October, May's ex-girlfriend said May told her he thought police were after him and were bugging his phone and car.
Seemingly out of nowhere, May began to believe that he was being, quote, watched by those around him, ranging from neighbors to cars on the highway, even people grocery shopping at the same time as him. May's longtime friend, Jamar, spoke about one night in which May had asked him to accompany him to the local Walmart. May had complained about being, quote, followed, periodically turning to look over his shoulder. May's girlfriend at the time reports that May believed that there were cameras in their apartment tracking his every move. She also states that May one time went as far as sleeping fully clothed with a kitchen knife in his hand, fearing that the neighbors were, quote, up to no good. His friends, family, and girlfriend would all try to reassure him that he was not being watched and that he just needed to get some help. May would refuse their reassurance and claim that they were all just wrong about the situation. By September 2014, it was clear that May was suffering from a mental condition of some kind, with Tallahassee psychotherapist Linda Miles believing that it was paranoid schizophrenia. May's behavior continued to escalate, with him alternating between brief moments of normality right back into a paranoid state. At one point, Myron May left his girlfriend a voicemail, claiming to have actually found a camera in his car. Hey Danielle, it's Myron. I just wanted you to know I found one of the cameras that was actually installed inside my vehicle. Like I literally have the camera right here in my pocket. There are several officers around me right now trying to stop me. So I thought I'd just let you know, just in case they actually pull them off and do stop me, because I have the camera and I'm bringing it to you. May appeared thin and disheveled in his appearance, claiming that he was being followed by, quote, 10 or 15 cops on his way over, going on to accuse other patients in the waiting room of his girlfriend's workplace of, quote, following him. May later showed up at her house for the last time later that night, in which she begged him to get the help that he needs, but of course he would refuse again. By the time 911 was called, May was gone. This all occurred after May resigned from his job and it was reported that May had checked himself into the Mesilla Valley Hospital for a mental health evaluation, being released after only 4 days. By late October, May decided to travel back to his hometown of Wawahichka for unknown reasons. But after visiting family, May decided to seek refuge in the home of David and Abigail Taunton. The pair provided and managed residential homes for boys and girls and have provided shelter for what they estimate to be over 300 youths over the years. The couple had not seen May since high school until he showed up again at their doorstep in October of 2014. May spent time visiting his own family, friends, and the Tauntons, even attending their annual camping trip. David Taunton said that May appeared, quote, at peace but slightly stressed, as if he had things on his mind. By the third week of May's stay on their property, Abigail Taunton started seeing a change in May's personality. May claimed he was having trouble sleeping, along with excruciating headaches. On November 12, 2014, May showed David a 15-minute-long video detailing supposed government technology that he claimed was capable of spying on people, along with controlling their thoughts and actions. He also went on to say that May had paid around $90 to be part of an online support group for those who claimed to be targeted individuals. 6 days before he opened fire, he posted this bizarre and disturbing post on the targeted individual's national Facebook page. Has anyone here ever been encouraged by your handler to kill with a promise of freedom? In the following days, Myron was not seen at church or at work. Worried, Abigail Taunton reached out. May would claim he just needed to get away and reassured her that he would be back. May opened fire on November 20th, 2014, physically injuring 3 individuals and forever altering the lives of more than just his community. His laptop was seized, in which an hour-and-a-half video detailing his experience as a targeted individual was found. You can watch the whole video on YouTube.
You know, it makes you wonder just how many people in these mass shootings are actually going through this, and I would say quite a few.
Yeah, it's been talked about on Journey to Truth. It's
right.
Yeah, we've talked about it here on this show. It's being addressed by people, and it's important that it is addressed. It's very controversial to address it, but
this is the first time that I've seen anything like that talked about, that a killer, somebody who actually did a mass shooting, where it actually talked about that they were hearing voices that was telling them to do this. So there you go. If you do this killing, we'll let you off the hook and you'll stop being a targeted individual. You have to ask your handler, well, how am I going to get me out of the jail system? How are you going to get me out of that? I mean, this is, like I said, another reason why people need to have at least one other person to do a reality check with. So, and just one other thing too, you notice that we're going into the second Trump administration. So remember back during the first one, we had a massive amount of shootings. All of a sudden, it was just like a flood of them. And throughout Trump's, his 4 years, there was one mass shooting after another and another and another, and a big push for gun control. And then Biden gets in, and it all just kind of diffuses itself because we've got other agendas, They set us up like this. They set society up like this. They've got their cells, their sleep. They're using this system to manufacture murder in this country and abroad.
This is all for entertainment purposes only. YouTube, please don't give my channel a strike.
Yeah. We need to get on Rumble.
Yeah, well, that's where
so we could be shadow banned to oblivion.
I love the fact that they're all about freedom of speech. That's awesome, but this is kind of where most people are, unfortunately.
I know.
That's a whole other subject of conversation. What I can do is stream to there simultaneously, which I keep on putting off figuring that out. I have to do some minor tech stuff to do it. It's not as easy as doing it, but we'll figure that out later. There is a Rumble for this channel. It's just, it's got way less videos on it than the YouTube does. But anyway.
An entire town? Think how annoyed you get when just one person honks at you. Now imagine all your neighbors driving by sitting on that horn 24/7.
In 2007, in the small town of Hubbard, Ohio, Rick and Cindy Kurlich became the center of organized harassment. It all began when Rick and Cindy sued their next-door neighbor, John Clemente. See, John Clemente's house was in the middle of probate court. Rick and Cindy took this opportunity to file a lawsuit so that they could acquire the house for themselves. Essentially, they were trying to buy a house that wasn't for sale. The property was in the Clemente family for generations, so John didn't take too kindly of anyone trying to buy the family home. Rick and Cindy Kurlich were ultimately not successful in purchasing the house, and even though the lawsuit was dropped, they were officially—
Look at that Karen haircut.
a target.
Yeah.
At the time, John Clemente was the town fire chief, and apparently, he had friends. Almost every time a car would pass by Rick and Cindy's property, they would honk. Rick and Cindy decided to install surveillance cameras to document the harassment. The cameras around the property captured random cars, police cars, firefighters, school buses, even hearses, honking whenever they passed the Kurlich property. 100 honks a day. Rick and Cindy began to document and sue every individual who honked. In 2014, the Kurliches filed a complaint against more than 40 defendants. The initial judgment found that the only substantiated claim was that someone was honking car horns. But this alone did not constitute intentional infliction of emotional distress. The Kurliches attempted to appeal this decision. In 2019, Rick and Cindy's appeal was denied again, and they were ordered to pay $8,250 in attorney fees for the defendants. John Clemente denies ever organizing a horn-blowing campaign against the Kurlich family. Remember how earlier I said that gangstalking is often associated with paranoid schizophrenia? Well, the very first fully documented case of schizophrenia was a man named James Tilly Matthews, and he also believed that he was being gangstalked. See, many believe that gangstalking has its shadowy roots in the 1940s, when the CIA engaged in covert mind control programs such as Project Bluebird, Project Artichoke, MKUltra, and so on. But claims of this phenomena go back further, about 200 years. James Tilly Matthews was a British merchant of Welsh and Huguenot descent. He was born in 1770, and he is the very first fully documented case of schizophrenia. Interestingly, the claims established by Matthews over 200 years ago sound a lot like the modern allegations of gangstalking put forth by targeted individuals. In 1797, Matthews was confined to the notorious London Bedlam Asylum for believing that his mind was under the control of the Heirloom, a machine that he claimed used magnetic rays and mysterious gases to brainwash politicians and other unsuspecting victims. He went on to claim that the machine could alter thoughts and read minds. Matthews believed that there was a gang of criminals and spies orchestrating this harassment. He spoke of a mass brainwashing program that controlled the high politics that led to the Napoleonic Wars. John Haslam was a London apothecary. For 10 years, he documented the delusions of James Tilly Matthews in meticulous detail, and in 1810, he released the very first ever book dedicated to documenting delusions, titled Illustrations of Madness. Now, the book documented the paranoid delusions, and it also included technical diagrams of the mysterious heirloom device drawn by Matthews himself. The diagrams were strangely intricate. Matthews' drawings included batteries, barrels, cylinders, levers, and more. The device allegedly worked by meshing airs and gases into a, quote, warp of magnetic fluid. Matthews claimed that the mysterious criminal organization that controlled the heirloom implanted a magnet in his brain that allowed full control of his mind and body. He claimed to be remotely tormented with constant bouts of vivid hallucinations. He claimed that his tormentors were able to force him to speak whatever words they wanted and could inflict.
I just want to say I talked publicly about Montauk being connected to this like girls asylum that Jimmy Savile would go to and stuff. And I this bedlam, as soon as I saw that, I know that Montauk was Project Phoenix 2 was doing stuff there. And honestly, I think that there's probably a lot of truth to all this stuff this guy is saying, because it's just too weird of a coincidence that as soon as I saw Bedlam in that picture, it was like, yeah, I know that like we were involved in that place for sure. Like,
yeah, his understanding is off, but I mean, you know, what are you going to know at that time of the historical period about any of this? Yes, he is.
For his time, he's out of his time.
Right.
With his ability to grasp what's going on with him.
Compare him to the people we just saw, the ones that were blaming the toilet. There's a thing in my toilet. It's not in her toilet. It's coming from the pole outside her house, most likely, or a Gwen tower, a satellite. It could be even a cloaked.
Their Wi-Fi is one thing that they can do. I mean, it's pretty easy to just like not, have internet in your house anymore. But then they can attack you. They can use cell phone towers and stuff like that too. But
think about this.
Prevented it at least a little bit.
We have a super highway of cloaked military spacecraft in our atmosphere right now over major cities and suburbs and rural areas. We can't see them, but if you have infrared, like the Farsight Institute's doing, and other people, you can film these things. They could be drones doing this stuff to us. They could be military personnel in a cloaked craft hitting you with directed energy, and you wouldn't be any wiser unless you could remote view the source. So that's one other option that they have to get to you, because it's not, and we're also dealing with MyLab stuff, so it's very easy for them to do such things. They're not going to do it to the average person who's being hit with this kind of thing. They're going to get more of the low tech stuff, like we're seeing.
Yeah, we're getting closer to the end of this here. Let's see if we can see what else this guy. This is a really interesting thing, finding out about this guy. I'm really interested in this.
Yeah, that is very fascinating.
So let's learn a little bit more.
Agonies upon him at will. These experiences sound a lot like the allegations put forth by victims of V2K and other directed energy weapons. So what do targeted individuals have to say about James Tilly Matthews? James Tilly Matthews, the first targeted individual. Matthews claimed that the heirloom used magnetic rays to control people's minds. Weirdly, he wasn't too far off.
That power the human machines, that influence human behavior. Let's take a man. Any man.
The most disturbing rabbit hole associated with gangstalking is the alleged electronic harassment via directed energy weapons. A directed energy weapon is a ranged weapon that uses highly focused energy without a solid projectile. This includes utilizing lasers, microwaves, high and low frequencies, particle beams, and sound beams. Targeted individuals are often deemed mentally ill, but victims claim that their mental illness is induced. Targeted individuals often refer to something called voice-to-skull technology, or by its acronym, V2K. It's also called microwave hearing because many of the alleged technologies are based on the microwave auditory effect. Voice-to-skull technology is allegedly used to induce schizophrenic symptoms in victims by by transmitting voices and audio directly into a person's head. The technology to do this is real. In fact, there's a couple of different patented ways to achieve this, and much more. Microwaves are a form of electromagnetic radiation. Microwave technology allows us to heat up our food and transmit wireless power. And it also enables us to induce the perception of sounds in both hearing and deaf individuals. In 1961, neuroscientist Alan H. Frey published the first paper in the Journal of Applied Physiology on the microwave auditory effect, which is why it's also known as the Frey effect. Researchers were able to transmit the sound of a human voice directly into the heads of test subjects, absolutely inaudible to anyone else. They found that the waves activated cochlear...
But I'm sure they've never ever actually used this technology. They're just trying to figure it out, right? They're just all just for fun.
Receptors, the same way that actually hearing something would. They projected spoken numbers and short words to the test subjects. What people heard in their head sounded like an electronically modulated voice. Again, no one was able to hear this except the test subjects. Another way to achieve voice to skull is through the radio frequency hearing effect. Patent US 6470214B1 described as a method and device for implementing the radio frequency hearing effect. The patent is classified under arrangements or circuits for monitoring, protecting, controlling, or indicating, and it's assigned to the US Air Force. The phenomena was first discovered during World War II, when a subjective clicking sound was being produced by a pulsed radar signal when the transmitted power was above a certain threshold. Interestingly, when the radar signal was pulsed below the threshold level, the click could no longer be heard. The discovery of the radio frequency hearing effect suggested the idea that a pulsed radio frequency carrier could potentially be encoded. This was under the assumption that the click of the pulse carrier was similar in a way to a data sample, and could therefore be used to create both simple and complex tones, including speech. The radio frequency hearing effect is best described as a thermal to acoustic demodulation process, in which energy absorption in a medium, such as a human head, causes both expansion and contraction, creating an acoustic signal.
Can we stop here for a second? I want to mention something. When I was going through this V2K crap, which I've actually put an end to it, hopefully, I was concerned because I was getting it 16 plus hours a day. So what I mean is, if I didn't sleep 8 hours, if I slept 5, I got it for 19 hours a day. It was right when I woke up as I was going to bed, I'm having this conversation. I asked them, I'm like, what is the negative effect of this? As if they would care, because I wanted to know why they were hitting me in a different way, because they could make it sound like they're right next to you talking. You hear their voice distinctly, like it's right in your ear or right next to you, even though it's coming literally in your head. The cochlea, I think, is, what is that? The ear structure. So they're actually creating an auditory effect in your head. So what is the long-term effect of repeated? Because, they were going to apply this to a goggle, I think, for Apple, to where you could have like headphones without headphones. So you could wear the goggles and hear it in your head without having earbuds in. I don't know why they didn't come out with that. They were talking about it was a patent issue, and it's part of what they're talking about. But if they're beaming this into you, what's the long-term effect? I think there is a long-term negative effect of this. There would have to be. The human body's not made to be a microwave receiver in this way. So, and what they were doing is I could hear them clearly and distinctly, or I could hear them like it was my own inner voice with a slight difference, because it isn't you, it's artificial. And then the other way is they would speak to me in such a way, and they could increase this to where my lips literally moved as they spoke the words, which really gets to you because you think that you're doing it to yourself at this point. It's like, why am I murmuring what they're saying. I must be doing this to myself. They have a way to kind of like
sounds
blur
like not a
that.
fun time.
You know what
Sorry
they do
that
is
you
they
had to deal
blur
with
that. I'm sorry, what?
Sounds like miserable, man. I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
Well, I mean, there was a point where I actually was getting ahead of them, and I was actually getting to their head to where they would scream at me and tell me to shut up. But I used it for what I had to use it for, which was to try to get information. I did it for that reason, but I eventually shut them up. But yeah, I think that there is a harmful effect with this over a long period of time, and I think that they reduce that by giving it to you very, very subtle, and actually that is a way of another form of psychological warfare, because you wonder if it's your own thoughts. They blur it. It's just like, is it my own thoughts? Am I doing this to myself? You have to be really strong in who you are and grounded in your own sanity, which means you have to do a lot of self-work so that you don't succumb to what people are succumbing to and slipping into this psychosis that they're trying to create, because they're inducing mental illness. Go ahead.
I just want to address this comment. They take our day-to-day data and run a program to figure out how to manipulate us. It's running a simulated version of the world to predict how people are going to react to it.
That
and
too.
I just sort of think that like I remember when they it created the different reacts, like love, sad, wow, whatever, angry react. I remember thinking they're gonna use that to a most like way people like it's gonna be used as a tool to like psychologically profile people and see how they feel about things and stuff.
Posts with angry reacts are more likely to get banned.
Yeah.
From Facebook too.
Yeah, I guess posts with angry reacts are more likely to get removed from Facebook and stuff. So, but yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So, I just thought that was an interesting comment, and I wanted to address that before.
Another thing too that I noticed when I was going through it, I had a friend who was going through it too. I noticed that a lot of the toxic garbage that the news media spews, the toxic viewpoints, whether it be the computer simulation that we're all basically binary code and there's nothing to us at all. We're not even alive. There's that type of crap that is is reinforced by these handlers. I experienced all of the toxic crap that people complain about on social media was literally being used against me in my own head by these handlers. That was one of their strategies, which kind of makes me wonder, if I know that they can broadcast to large numbers of people and create a mood, to get people to riot. So, for example, all the Trump riots and stuff we had, all that unrest that we had, I believe had a component to it. I've seen it in the community where it's just suddenly there's a wave of bad attitudes and just people are miserable, and it comes and it goes like an ebb and a flow. I know that they're doing this, so they can literally affect people on a mass scale with this technology. It may not be as specific.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that 100%. And then you upset or whatever,
And you apply the stimuli with the conditioning of social media, the way the AI conditions and promotes things. They promote unhealthy behaviors. And if you're into unhealthy behaviors, the AI is really programmed to keep reinforcing it and giving you more unhealthy crap. So as you can imagine, they could broadcast a signal out to a large group of people, run a social media campaign, and literally create civil unrest or just deviancy of some kind, or anything that is counterproductive to harmony in large population centers. That's how bad this is. People need to wake up, because we're not, as they say, we're not in Kansas anymore. This is Oz, and we need to get out of it.
I think where things are like people are like more awake than they have been for a long time, and I'm hopeful. I try to be hopeful. I don't think there's any point to not be hopeful, but also we have a lot of work to do, man. There's a lot of people who really aren't paying attention still, so.
Yes. There's the desensitization of violence, the desensitization of human suffering that people deal with.
Just a desensitization of suffering in general is really sad, really, yeah. But this video is almost over. We might as well get to the end of it, eh?
Yeah, and let's hope we're here now. After we don't get a strike after this, because I have to censor myself.
I think you're doing okay.
Well, there's certain words that I guess, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think.
I don't remember noticing you saying anything that I thought was sketchy.
Well,
maybe you did, and it flew over my head.
I didn't, but when you say on a live, it makes me worry about, are they going to just come up with a reason, like flag the video, the AI, and then they look at it and say, oh, he said toothpaste. Just because I said it, now I'm screwed.
I think
not to give them any ammo against this. They don't like toothpaste.
Yeah, I remember that with Rob.
Yeah.
There is an entire index filled with some of the most disturbing patents imaginable. 2 separate patents that remotely cause individuals to hear voices via EMF waves, imperceptible to anyone else. U.S. Patent 5889870A from 1996 makes voices emanate from individuals who do not intend to realize it, coined the ventriloquist effect. U.S. Patent Code US 6488617B1 is described as a method and device for producing a desired brain state within an individual. US 6167304A remotely manipulates central nervous system of a subject by applying electric field to skin. US 6506148B2 manipulates subject brain waves via frequencies emanating from computer and TV screens. This index contains real US patents that alter dreams, control human behavior via extremely low frequencies, another one that remotely causes individuals to feel bodily swaying, and much, much more. There's even a patent for an imaging device that improves the aim of other directed energy weapons. And some directed energy weapons are described as extremely precise, even over distances of thousands of miles. I also found a patent with a method that identifies victims of directed energy weapons and can also identify who the remote attacker is, which does make you wonder why there's a patent on this at all. Directed energy weapons really are the perfect controversy. If hypothetically these weapons are being used against targeted individuals, there would really be no way to prove it. It's the perfect crime. And if these weapons are not being used, the fact that they exist at all is enough to validate the narrative that maybe they could be. So I guess the real question is, what are these technologies being used for? Operation Wandering Soul was a propaganda campaign and psychological warfare tactic exercised by the US military during the Vietnam War. They would fly over targeted areas, projecting eerie sounds and audio through speakers that were meant to sound like the ghost of dead Vietnam soldiers wandering around in the afterlife. They recorded real Vietnamese soldiers and had them say things like, "My body is gone. I am dead. My family. Tragic. How tragic. My friends, I came back to let you know that I am dead. I am dead. I am in hell." The audio was meant to psychologically play into the deep-rooted beliefs of Vietnamese culture that shows
so fucked up.
A lot of respect for the dead. These sounds scared a lot of Vietnamese soldiers into surrendering. The audio was played through speakers from an aircraft, but as it turns out, the military might have developed an even sneakier way to do this.
And something that I worked on, and I'm not proud of, but it's called the Voice of God weapon. So there are 4 different techniques and technologies that can pipe voices into an individual's head. And once you can do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains.
The Voice of God weapon is a device that projects voices into your head to make you think that God is speaking to you. Well, okay. The Voice of God device was allegedly used during the Gulf War to convince Iraqi soldiers that Allah was commanding them to surrender. This device does not have official confirmation to actually exist or to have been utilized, though there have been very credible inside people that have come out to say that it does exist. For now, it sort of exists like a military urban myth, though technically, they really do have the technology, and as we saw, the patents to achieve it, so I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, in 2018, an article detailed how the US military is making lasers that create voices out of thin air. Other devices are confirmed, like the Medusa, an acronym for Mob Access Deterrent using silent audio. It's intended to be used for crowd control. The Medusa sends shockwaves inside a person's skull. The scary part is that since it technically bypasses the ears, there is essentially no way to block it out. It can also be used as an invisible scarecrow to deter birds because apparently, birds are very sensitive to microwaves. Then there's the active denial system, a non-lethal directed energy weapon that can heat the water in an individual's skin that causes incapacitating pain. Apparently, there's been concerns that this may actually cause irreversible damage to the eyes, but it's still being tested. These are a few samples of patents and technologies, but there are a lot more. In fact, there's a lot that I'm choosing to consciously not mention. These are the technologies that targeted individuals point at when they hear voices in their head. This is why targeted individuals don't believe that they're mentally ill. They believe they are fighting a shadowy organization that is inflicting these experiences onto them. And targeted individuals try to fight these attacks however they can. On the site targetedjustice.com, there are instructions for targeted individuals on how to protect themselves against these alleged microwave attacks. They call it water shielding. The idea is that water absorbs microwaves, so a contraption is designed to surround one's head with water so that targeted individuals can get some sleep, because many claim that the microwave attacks are so vicious that they can't sleep at night. And there actually is a proven way to block out electromagnetic radiation from directed energy weapons. And I'm not joking. Tinfoil hats. Yes, aluminum foil. With all of this said, why would a government or any organization isolate and target people? Some say you become targeted for being a whistleblower. Some believe you stepped on someone's toes and ended up on some quote list. And others say you are targeted for no reason at all. In fact, this is probably the most widely believed reason, is that there is no reason. Targeted individuals often believe that people are picked at random to be part of a secret human experimentation that subjects people to non-consensual mind control, aka MKUltra 2.0. Now, even though there are a lot of patents on this technology and there are some obvious war-related applications to them, I don't believe these technologies are being used on everyday people. In fact, disclaimer, I am not, and this video is not, saying that the government or I'm sorry I've been gone for a while.
That's pretty much the video, I think.
Yeah, I got something to say. This technology has literally allowed them to stop a global revolution without firing a shot, because they've already picked out, and so they've already targeted the people that would have liberated humanity out of their mess, and they keep them suppressed. So this is as good as it gets.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah, some of these people, like I said with the time travel stuff, they just might know to fuck with people because of intel that they have that the average person can't wrap their mind around, frankly. Like,
some of the biggest threats are the assets. I mean, another thing too, they didn't address this. I I don't know if it's covered in the patents or if it's covered in the book Project Dreamcatcher by that scientist who worked for, I guess, the Defense Authorized Research Projects Agency, which used to be called ARPA. They added the word defense into the title.
Well, we can't forget to talk about, before I forget, there's an organization like Delta 9 or some shit. We got to talk about that before the show.
What is that?
Let's wrap it up with that. You sent me links and you said this is the group that's doing targeting, and it's like it has to do with the Space Force.
No, I didn't send you that. Somebody else did, I think. I wasn't me. But I just wanted to mention one thing, though, how advanced this is. They didn't get into how they can... Okay, you could have two people on both sides of you, and you get hit, and they don't feel anything. You could be having intercourse with somebody and get hit by directed energy, and the person you're having intercourse with feels nothing. You feel it, but they don't. How do they do this? You have from the best of my, I would say the best of my understanding, this is a very simplistic way to explain this. You have a DNA IP address, okay? It's like an internet protocol address. And you're basically a node on a network with your DNA signature. It has a resonant energy signature to it. This is how telepathy works and everything else. It's the medium, basically, of consciousness. They can use this technology, tapping into that, and they can use that to target you by what I would say your DNA IP address. Okay, so one of the ways that they can get that is, like people say, well, how do they get it? How do they know? How do they know what my DNA is? Well, and people point to, samples taken at birth and things like that, but they don't need any of that. They need things like that for genetic projects, transhumanism, biological weapons manufacture, that stuff where it would actually go after certain ethnic groups. They have weapons like that too. But this is basically all they have to do is get one of their telepathic assets that are connected with a computer system, and they simply just focus on you. They could hand them a list of people's social media statements, and they could look and say, okay, Joe Blow said this. Okay, well, we're going to target Joe Blow, and that's just somebody's handle, and say YouTube or wherever. And so the asset focuses on them. They remote view them. That creates a lock. The computer interfaces with their brain. It creates a DNA IP address lock. And then bang, they've got your ass. And they will continue to hit you. And there's nothing or very little you can do about it. How I shut it down was from alter integration, because having to do this podcast and other things and being hit like this, I had a pretty short expiration date, as it was explained to me. So I was given the ability to block it. I can tell you how it happened, but I can't tell you how to do it, because it's something that came from another part of me, the non-human aspect of me that's being used in these programs. And that part of me created a crystallized energy field around my head that broke the connection, so they can't get in. And the last thing I heard, because I cut the handlers off mid-sentence, I am able to hear them outside of this if I want. It's like a selective hearing, and I can tell when they're trying to get at me and pump things in. But I heard them say he crystallized, and I didn't. I thought I heard that like vaguely somewhere, but it's some kind of new age term, or crystallization of your energy body. I'm not familiar with it, but if anybody out there knows what I'm talking about, apparently there's something to that, because this energy field has. It's not like fluid in, or you got to keep pumping it in. It's there and it stays there. So in a sense, it's crystallized. It's in a constant solid state, in a sense, to whatever degree. It's not really solid, but on the astral, it's solid enough to keep it out. And that was something that, it was one of these things where I became aware that I could do it. And then I watched my alter actually through me make it and actually do it. And it was to keep them out, because, there's 16 hours a day. How long can you deal with that? Those 16 hours a day that I spent dealing with them months on end took a lot of my life away from me. I had, I would try to hold a conversation with someone while dealing with them in my head. It was very difficult. It took away from everything. So I paid the price to get what little information I got out of that, but I don't regret doing it, because it helped build my ability to stand up to them. So I don't recommend it, but if you don't have an option, don't give in. Don't listen to them. don't don't negotiate with them. Don't take their offers. Don't cut deals with them. Do nothing. Ignore them. Tell them to F off. Whatever you got to do, do not take any of it seriously. If they tell you to harm yourself or somebody else, don't do it. That's my advice. Zero compliance, total resistance.
So I don't know. Like, I remember you sending me something about this. I don't know if this is a Mandela effect or what. It's really weird. Like, I know it was you. I'm really confused. And I looked at my messages and it's not there. I don't know who else would have sent
it. It was
it.
me. Yeah, I might have done it. I mean, I'm prone to being up late and, kind of like half out of it, sending things to people.
Basically, you said that this was these people were doing a lot of targeting and doing a lot of the electronic harassment and things like that. And if you read what it says space Delta 7 intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. So sounds about like the CIA of space is what it sounds like, right? Space Delta 7 is the operational intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance element of the U.S. Space Force. And ISR Delta provides critical, time-sensitive, and actionable intelligence for space domain operations to allow for detection, characterization, and targeting of adversary space capabilities. Del 7 employs a variety of fixed and mobile sensors across the globe, operated by ISR professionals to enable the United States Space Force to gain and maintain space superiority. So apparently these guys got sensors all over the world, mobile ones at that. That's kind of weird, huh? Mission: execute global ISR operations to gain and maintain information dominance in the space domain. What? What is it? That's like a real nothing burger, sort of, right? Like.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember sending this to you. I mean, if you think I did, I guess maybe I did. I don't know.
Yeah, you sent screenshots with their faces and stuff like that, and like you're like, these are the literal people. These,
No, that can't be me unless I'm losing.
You're like, these guys are going to jail someday. I swear to God, it was you. Somebody sent me that.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I don't remember that.
There's more than one, but I'm pretty, because I remember it was Delta 7 something. I'm pretty sure it's Delta 7 because, intelligence, surveillance. That sounds like that would be the one, right? Like, there's a few different ones. But anyway, and this is showing where they all are. Units. There's the 71st ISR Squadron located Peterson's. There's another one that's at the same base. Then there's another one that's at Wright-Patterson in Ohio. Then there's another one. Look at in Colorado. Then there's another one, same spot in Colorado, it looks like. Then there's another one, look it up, Wright-Patterson. And they all do slightly different things, it looks like. So, you got to keep in mind, this is something that's kind of crazy. It's like, people, I still think that, like, a lot of the public really don't understand. We have a space force. And think about that. These guys got all these different squadrons, which, why is it the fact that it's 71st and we're the first 70?
Well, the funny thing is, people think we have a space force, but it's like nobody believes they're in space. They're just planning.
No, I think they are. Yeah, I think they definitely are. I know they are.
Well, they definitely are. But they want people to believe we're working on it. It's just in the planning phase, folks. We need lots of money.
Yeah, anyway, apparently this is a real big piece of the puzzle, and it's really weird that you don't remember me sending those messages. I'm going to have to look at my inbox and like do a real deep dive as to who sent me that if it wasn't you.
And if it was me, please let me know, because then there's something funny going on with me. I don't know what it is, and it isn't late night bong hits with short-term memory loss. So I could have sent that to you, and I could have been, because I'm known to send things and share things and then not read them. So that way maybe I don't remember that reason, but I don't remember saying these people are going to jail. But then again, I say that a lot, but no specific pictures of certain individuals though, because I know what my knowledge base is, and I don't remember doing that. At least I hope I didn't do it, and otherwise I wouldn't remember.
Well, hey, we're going on 3 hours, and I got to eat dinner and stuff like that. So I think we should probably wrap up the show. I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. It was fun. I mean, obviously it's an uncomfortable subject, but you guys are a great audience, and I enjoy learning. I enjoy educating myself. So I guess in that weird way, I enjoyed it. It was fun for me. Because, yeah, I enjoy spreading the truth. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yes, it's a dark subject, but hey, we're shining light on it, and that's good. So, yeah, I feel good about it. I feel like it was a fun show, and I really appreciate everybody being here. You can be quiet for 1 minute, sweetheart. We're about to wrap up the show. Anyway, I just want to say I really appreciate everybody being here, and if you want to support the channel, if you really appreciate what we're doing and you want to make it easier for me to do this, you can subscribe to the Patreon, which it's only $5. So if people are interested in that, you can do that. And we do the virtual temple complex. Nathan is there on Wednesdays. I don't know what's going on with my job situation. It's a really long story, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing it at 3 p.m. because of I'm going to have a job soon. Like I still haven't started. It's craziness. It's a really long story. But anyway, so just want to let people know that the show is usually going to be a little bit earlier. And then tomorrow me and Kat are actually going to be doing a show about like the TikTok ban and how we think that it's probably more than they don't want the information, a lot of it on there, right? There's a lot of information. I mean, how many UFO videos have you seen on there? How many conspiracy theories that would have gotten swept under the rug and never would have seen the light of day that are true and real and really important would have TikTok got the dam broken open on them, like so much stuff. Like a lot
That's
of the
because the Chinese aren't quite as quite cooperative as some of the other platforms.
Think about it. I mean,
the conflict of interest there.
Let's say if they were the whole narrative that it's Chinese don't and blah blah blah. Well, yeah, then if there's information that kind of shows the fallacies of the American government and the American empire or whatever, they're going to be a little more relaxed about that, probably, right? And they probably don't like that, right? So,
like if you're in Russia, you can say whatever you want about the United States.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And then get this, so people are, and this is something we're talking about. People are checking out the Russian TikTok. Americans are, and then also Americans are checking out the Chinese TikTok and all these different TikToks for all these different regions of the world. And there's this cultural exchange going on from this TikTok being banned. And it's a really interesting situation. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Me and Kat we're going to do a whole show probably earlier in the day. What do you say, like noon maybe?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, like noon. We'll do it at noon. I haven't been to the show yet. So let's check that out. Hang out with us earlier in the day, and we're going to talk about that. And then Nathan, why don't you just if there's anything you want to say or whatever, if people want to get a hold of you, let them know.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the questions tonight. They were very, very good. And when I see questions like that, I know that we're having a positive impact in educating our audience. And I think that's only positive and good. Only good things can come from that. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And you can find me at the Hajj and Contact E channel is it's there, but it's nothing's going on it right now. You can reach me, Nathan Cizsek, Facebook, Hajj and Contact E at voicesoforion.com. I do have I have a Telegram group called the Planetary Consciousness Project. I'm not there that much. And for those wondering why I'm kind of on again and off again, I've been consistent here on this channel, but it's just, there's a lot of reparative work I got to do on myself and my life. So, and then there's a lot of targeting that's going on. So this is the year I think I'm going to get my act together. I have to get my shit together and actually have a greater impact and get some normalcy in my life. So, with our team too.
Yeah, it's basically a TikTok clone.
Okay, so there's a TikTok clone that's created, Lemonade.
It doesn't seem to be as popular though. Like Red Note is more popular.
Lemonade app TikTok.
Red Note is more popular, which is the literal Chinese Communist Party TikTok. So in order to get people to not use a Chinese app, people are literally going to the Communist Party's version of the app, believe it or not. So that's kind of part of what we're going to talk about tomorrow. It's really interesting. It's just really interesting. And it does have to do with disclosure stuff because there's so much information that people find on there.
Yeah, I sent you some.
Every country has a different level of disclosure. And since we're in the U.S., the United States and Canadian echo chamber, we get very little compared to other countries. Like Russia does give more disclosure. I did hear.
I've heard North Korea. They're honest. My friend Jed was
surprised me.
honest about like alien. They're like, yeah, there are aliens and stuff. They tell their people that. I don't know how true that is, but my friend was telling me that, and he's a really smart guy. I don't know. He's telling me to look into it. I haven't ever really looked into it though.
Yeah, we live in a strange world. There's no cannabis laws in North Korea. They actually plant them on the railroad tracks. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like that. I remember reading this article about this guy. He went there as a journalist, and he's like, found out he could just smoke weed out in public. He's like, this is so weird. He, of course, indulged, and it's just like, it's just this guy was just getting stoned the whole time he visited in North Korea.
Well, the leader, the supreme leader, has probably got the munchies. He's gained a lot of weight.
Oh man, I haven't really been paying attention. A lot of people. So something interesting is you can watch videos of the North Korean TV on YouTube now, and if you have the right device, you can actually tune in like with like satellite TV and like watch their TV and stuff. So yeah, there's a whole lot of culture. I wonder if it's like something in the energy right now. There's a lot of cultural exchange happening right now in really weird ways. So that's kind of
people are figuring out that they're being bullshitted everywhere they live, and they're trying to reach out that box, and see what's out there.
Yeah, it's literally exactly it, and that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow, Nathan.
Yeah, it's like you lick your finger, and you hold it up to the wind, and you taste the bullshit from whatever direction it's blowing, and you're like, okay, that's almost like ours. Oh, North Korea, different flavor.
Seriously, because like none of these places are perfect, right? Like China, their quality of life is a lot higher in a lot of ways, but also like you're gonna get a lot of trouble if they catch you with like some weed or something, which is stupid, right? But it's because of the opium problem that they had. It's part of their history. It's like they have a seriously hardcore attitude against drugs because of the problems.
Yeah, the West India. It was the West India Company. They were basically flooding the Chinese culture with opium. And
which by the way, they're
by the British.
Their secret space program, like they're out there in space, they colonize other planets and stuff like that. That corporation still exists.
The West India Company?
Yep.
Oh, nothing surprises me.
Yeah. Anyway, they're part of the ICC because the ICC is not just one corporation; it's a bunch of corporations that work together. So they're part of the ICC. Yeah. But anyway,
the British royal family is one of the biggest opium smuggling families on earth. By the way,
there's involved.
That's how they got a lot of their money. They were behind the West India Company.
There's so much shady. Just everything about them is shady, real shady. Yeah. Noon tomorrow for our time, Susan. So that's like 10 your time. So have some coffee with us or whatever if you want to come hang out and talk about the TikTok ban and all the interesting things Kat has been learning. And then have a great night, Nathan. Thanks for doing the show with me. It was a lot of fun. You did it on. I asked him to do this earlier, so this was short notice, and it was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We're just making up for all the garbage we've been through this week.
Yeah, man. And again, sorry for not showing up before, guys. You're all very understanding, and I appreciate it. And again, check out the Patreon. I've got this thank you video. There's also a disclosure now Discord, which people can check out. She's the one that's more in charge of that, but there are people talking on there, sharing information, stuff like that. I really need to check it out. I will in the near future. But anyway, have a good night, guys. I'm gonna actually
have a good night.
Take care, Nathan.
Take care. I'll see you later.
Yeah.